Blog Talk Radio.
He is the last of his kind. All that remains of a once powerful nation. Some think he is a myth. Some believe he is the chosen one, who will bring balance to a world at war. And some will stop at nothing to destroy him.
Welcome everybody to Morris Talk Live 100. I'm your host, Tarhaka Amana L. Bay. And tonight, my special guest is Dr. Walter Williams, and we're going to be dealing with the resurrection of Osiris. Was Osiris a living, breathing man? When did Osiris live on the earth? Who was Osiris in the first place? These questions and much more is going to be answered tonight. And y'all sit tight. You might want to get you some paper and pencil because we're going to deal with this here this evening. And you want to make sure that you are able to go back over your notes and look at what you wrote down so you can do an investigation and you can bring up all the information that you need involving the subject that we're dealing with tonight. The resurrection of Osiris. Now, I know we're in the United States of America, and today the world say this is Easter. Okay, but have you really done an investigation on Easter? Have you really dealt with all of the aspects of what you've been believing in for a long time, been following for a long time, and been engaged in for a long time, and spending your money about for a long time? I think these are fair questions, and it seems to me that if you believe in something, at least you should know a little bit about what it is that you believe in. I just think, to me, that's just common sense. If I say I believe in Jesus Christ, then what I need to know is everything that I could possibly know about Jesus Christ, because that's what I told you that I believe in. It just, to me, it makes all the sense in the world. If I am incorrect, if I'm incorrect, could you please call into this broadcast and explain to me with the facts that I'm incorrect? Now, February the 12th was the end of the age of believing. We are now officially in the age of knowing for a fact that what we can prove. That's where we are right now. Okay? Now, if you disagree with that, let me know. I listen to what you got to say. I really would. All right. I'm going to take a little commercial break, and when I come back, we'll be ready to go in. Y'all hold on a minute. We'll be right back.
Tarhaka
right?
here.
This is good.
We have our secure party and creditor package. Go to www.newdebtelimination.com. That's newdebtelimination.com. Get yourself free. Learn how to be a secured party. Learn how to be a creditor. Learn how to establish your trust. newdebtelimination.com.
Okay, let me get a little straightened on that commercial. First of all, that's newdebtelimination.org. And second of all, the last thing that you ever want to do when your loved ones pass on is to write a will. Leave that alone. Do a trust instead. Write a trust. Establish your trust, and that take care of all of the fighting and the hoopla down in the courtroom. Get rid of that. You don't need all that. A trust. Got that? Okay.
Hey everybody, this is Tarhaka again. I would like to introduce you to the great debate. We now have copies of the great debate. Dr. Walter Williams debates Prince Ezio ben Israel of the Hebrew Israelites. Also, Reverend Henry Hardy of one of the most prominent churches in Chicago, Illinois. Chester Blair, a major attorney in Chicago. And Munir Muhammad of the Nation of Islam. The whole thing is hosted by W.L. Lillard. Dr. Walter Williams debate these men on their belief versus what he knows for a fact and he can prove. Get your copy by going to www.tarhakadebtelimination.org. That's tarhakadebtelimination.org, or you can go to newdebtelimination.com. newdebtelimination.com. Contact me for your copies. Okay? The great debate. You got any questions, just give me a shout. Peace.
Okay, once again, don't forget, that's newdebtelimination.org. Okay? newdebtelimination.org. We're going to take a little quick break, and we'll be right back.
Every black person on the planet who has been exposed to white supremacy, and the assumption is every black person on the planet has been, even when they haven't been in contact with white people directly. They've been exposed to the white culture indirectly. White culture is about white supremacy. Now, what does white supremacy do? It teaches people of color that if you are a male, you cannot be a man, period. Not in the system of white supremacy. And you're not going to be treated like a man, ever. Now, you can walk around and think that you're a man, but that's between you and you, strictly between you and yourself, because no white person has an obligation, if you're a black male, to treat you like you are a man. And it's logical simply because in the system of white supremacy, it's impossible for a black male to be a man. It doesn't make any difference how old he gets or what he knows or what kind of connections. That can't be done. I just start with myself. I'm not eligible, not qualified to be a man. Why? Because I was born in captivity, that's why. When you're in captivity, when you're a prisoner of war, you are strictly that and nothing else, a prisoner of war, a victim of white supremacy. And you don't have another title. You can give yourselves all kinds of titles, which is why black people love titles. We give ourselves all kinds of titles. We give each other all kinds of titles. Some titles, it's not as bad as it was in the old days. I say bad, if you want to use that word. But some people used to say professor, reverend, most high. I mean, before you ever get to a name, you would have about 40 titles, you know, when somebody introduces you, if you're supposed to be what you call a big shot Negro in the old days. This is not new. This goes way back. That struggle. Oh, I'd just love to be a man. I mean, what can it take? But by this generation, what you call the new millennia, most young black people have looked around. They have looked at the people that came before them, who since the 1960s, the white supremacists have done a rough job on black malehood. First of all, giving them an option that you can continue to be a big boy, or if you really want to get some material benefits, put on some gold slippers and skip around, and grin all the time and all like that, and have a little money in your pocket. Now, you can be a black girl if you're a black male. You can be a black girl, but you cannot be a man. You will never be a man in the system of white supremacy. Now, they have put that in cement. They have written, or rather in steel, or whatever the hardest subject, a diamond. The white supremacists have put that philosophy out here since the 1970s. That's the benchmark that I give it. All over the world, and they're spreading it. They're saying, you're not going to be a man. You're a black male, and you think you're going to be a man on my watch? On my watch? This is the voice of the white supremacists now, racist man and racist woman. Say, that's not going to happen. Say, now Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad and all of that, they said that that's what they're going to make you out of, but it's not going to happen. Now, you can talk it, but you make any move to make that real, and you're going to wonder what fell on you. Now, they have made that clear to all of us, and the young black people have picked up that signal. And they say, well, if I can't be a man and I don't want to be like my sisters, I don't want to switch around all day looking for a male, and I pretend to be a female or try to switch over and be one, if they can operate on me and make me one, because then things become easier. I guess, I hope, but I definitely can't be a man because I'm in big trouble if I try to be. Then what can I be? Well, the white supremacists said, well, I'll give you another outside option. You can go around and pretend that you're a man by doing harm to other black people. That's cursing out black females, calling them names and all like that. Write songs about them where you call them all kinds of names and kick them all up and down the street. We don't care about that. Kick your mother up and down the street. We rejoice when we see you do that, okay? But if you start acting anything like you ask for respect from us, the white supremacists, boy, you're going to get dead real quick. Most black males, we know that because they teach us that in no uncertain terms. When we really start asserting ourselves and say, you're going to respect me as a man. And the white supremacists said, you tell that to other black people. But don't you get in my face ever, boy, and act like you're even thinking like that, dealing with me. Now, I'll play with you for a little while. I'll laugh and joke with you. But if you get serious and think that you're going to be a man and when I'm here, because there ain't but one man in this house, and when I say house, I mean the entire planet Earth. Anytime you think with your black self, you're going to be a man in my presence, you got another thing coming. Now, like I said, I'll play with you. I'll kid around with you. I'll joke with you. I'll play some ball games with you and all like that. Don't you ever think that you're a man. You're a boy, or you can act like your sisters and be a girl, and you ain't got no other choices with me. But you got all kind of choices with your own people. Even though your own people are really not your own people, they are mine too. But you can kill them. You can tell them, ain't nobody going to disrespect you. Well, you tell that to other black people, boy. Well, don't you ever even think it in my presence. You don't even have to say it. Don't you even act like you might be thinking that, or you're going to find out what hell is. And you know what? The white supremacists have proven that they can deliver on that message every time, and I don't care who you are if you're black on this planet. When you really put them to an acid test, they have so far proven that nobody will take them on, because nobody knows how to, including Neely Fuller. I'm just trying to find out. I'm in their prison too. I was born in their prison too. So to get to the crux of what we're talking about here, for black males, we're talking about manhood. And it's not going to happen, folks, as long as you have the system of white supremacy in place and not having a system of justice. This is why, rather than run around killing each other, that's not going to help.
All right, we're back. It appears that my guest is in the queue. I'm going to open up the phone lines. Dr. Walter Williams, are you with me?
Yes, I'm here, Brother Tarhaka. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You coming across loud and clear, man. You ready to rock and roll?
Ready to rock and roll.
All right. The resurrection of Osiris. But before we get to that, do you have anything else to say about the little plug we played a minute ago? And if not, then we go straight on down into the subject.
No, I have no objection to that or anything to say about it.
All right, man. The resurrection of Osiris. Come on, man. Whoa, man, this is, today is Easter, and all day long, everybody has been dealing with a resurrection of a Jesus Christ and all this stuff. What I want to know is, what say you? What is the people, places, times, events, the date, the time, all that there? Let's put this thing together, man, and lay it down.
Well, the resurrection of ancient Egypt is the oldest death, burial, and resurrection story ever told. And that is where Christianity is getting the death, burial, and resurrection of this Jesus the Christ, which is a non-human created creature created by our ancestors, the Melkite Coptic Egyptians, in Egypt and in Northeast Africa. So it goes back to the world's first death, burial, and resurrection story of Osiris. It is called the Osarian Myth. And the Osiris myth comes from the world's first and oldest civilized people on planet Earth, known to us as the ancient Egyptians. And when from that civilization came the first Genesis story ever told in history. And from this Genesis story, you'll find Osiris, or the Osarian myth, embedded in that story. It is called the Ennead. That is the first Genesis story of creation, coming from the world's first and oldest civilized people and their culture, which is coming from the ancient Egyptians. And it's called the Ennead, E-N-N-E-A-D. E-N-N-E-A-D. The Ennead consists of 9 deities. The first 5 of those 9 deities is pertaining to creation. The last 4 plus 1 is pertaining to man and nature. So let me break that down for the listening audience. We're going to go into the first 5, the 9 deities of the Ennead, and that being creation. And the first deity and the main deity in that Ennead story is Ra, who is the creator of everything. Ra being the sun, the S-U-N. Ra being the creator of all things living. Ra had a son by the name of Shu, S-H-U, or Air. He was also called Air. Air. And he had a daughter called Tefnut, which is the daughter order. The daughter order, as you know, all females keep order. And that daughter order can be traced back to Ma'at. She's a female who the ancient Egyptians used the underlying principles of Ma'at: truth, justice, peace, love, and wisdom. So now here you got the daughter order being Tefnut. And she is also known as moisture. So she's the twin sister of Shu, air. So from air, you get moisture. You cannot get moisture unless you have air. And then the fourth and fifth deities of that creation section in the Inni is Geb and Nut. They were born on top of each other, so the myth goes. And Ra commanded Shu to lift Nut off of Geb. Geb is earth. Nut is the sky. So, in so doing, Shu obeyed his father's command and lifted Nut off of Geb. Geb is earth, and Nut is the sky. So when that happened, you go into ancient Egyptian history and study their pictorial books, you'll see a picture of a man holding a female up. And that is, the man that's holding the female up is Shu, and the female is Nut. So when that happened, when Shu lifted Nut off of Geb, the earth, she was depicted as a female with a boat going through her vagina. And that signifies that Nut was impregnated by Ra. And then you see another scene in the story of the Inni where Nut is sitting down on a chair, sitting in a chair, that's her throne. And in her lap is a baby. And that baby was the son of Ra, given to her, like I just mentioned. Her being lifted off of Geb with this boat through her body, depicting that Ra impregnated her. So therefore, the baby in her lap is the baby of Ra. He is depicted as being the firstborn. Now, we will go now into the last four deities, which is man and nature. Okay, in the man and nature plus one, you'll find the firstborn being Osiris, okay, or Asar. And then the secondborn was Seth, his brother. And then you'll find Isis and her sister Nephthys, all in this mythical story of the Inni coming from the world's first and oldest civilized people on planet Earth, supposedly anyway, that being the ancient Egyptians. Now, the story goes, and this is where the death, the burial, and the resurrection of one Osiris comes in play, or the Osarian Myth comes into play. It is said in the Inni, the story of the Inni, that Seth was jealous of Osiris because he was the firstborn and he wanted to be the firstborn. And that Seth had invited Osiris to a fabulous dinner that he gave this was a setup for Seth to dispose of Osiris, which he did. At that dinner, he poisoned Osiris. And Osiris was then taken out of the banquet hall by two of Seth's henchmen, so to speak. And his body was disposed of and dismembered into 14 different pieces and buried throughout ancient Egypt. And his penis was thrown into the river, and where the fish devoured his penis. This is how the story goes in this of creation, or the Genesis story of ancient Egypt. Now, Isis, hearing of this disposal of Osiris and her sister Nephthys, they set out to find the body parts. So they went all over Egypt looking for the body parts, and they found the body parts, dug up the body parts. That's the resurrection part. And they put his body parts back together, except for the only part of his body that was missing was his penis. So what Isis did was to take mud from the river Nile and erect it and made him a penis. And this is what this penis, if you go into temples in Egypt, where they're showing you this resurrection story of Osiris, of the Osarian Myth, you will find him laying on a slab with an erected penis. And that penis is what Isis made from the mud of the Nile. And she hovered over this penis as a bird. And this penis is supposed to, of Osiris is supposed to have impregnated her to bring forth into the world Horus, okay, or Osar, which is their son. Osar is the son of Isis and the son of Osiris. So that's where I said 4 plus 1. Horus is now the 5th deity of that Ennead story. Now, it is also said in this Ennead story that when Horus grew up, or Haru grew up, and found out who and how his father was killed by his uncle Seth, that he went looking for Seth, and they had a terrific fight. And in this fight, Seth, his uncle, knocked his eye out, and that is known as the eye of Horus. So this is how this mythical story of Osiris, of the Osarian myth, came about. And today, as I speak, it is attached to this Jesus the Christ story that is told every year at Easter time. And that's the foundation of this Jesus being resurrected and coming to life and so forth and so on. So I want to get into that by letting you know that is part of Christianity as we speak today. However, I'm going to turn this over and to you, Brother Tarhaka, and we can go from that point.
Okay. Well, now, Dr. Williams, now, in your personal opinion, do you think that the people that came into Egypt after the fact took this myth and tried to attach a story to it and make it literal? When we know it comes from ancient Egyptian mythology. Do you think that's what they done, in your opinion? You with me?
That's all it is, coming from the creation of mythology out of ancient Egypt. Because as you know, Jesus Christ is a non-human, created by our ancestors, the Melchite Coptic Egyptians, and along with his non-human mother, the Virgin Mary, at Ephesus in 431.
Okay.
So
all right. Well, what I'm trying to fix in my mind, and I know me and you know. However, there are people that's listening for the very first time, and what I'm trying to get fixated in their minds is, where was this stuff stolen from, and why?
Well, it was stolen from ancient Egypt, like I said. See, this is the what I just got to narrating is the world's first Immaculate Conception story. The very first Immaculate Conception. So therefore, today, they attach that same story and apply it just to Christ every year at Easter time. But the Immaculate story, the original and the first Immaculate story came out of ancient Egypt. Like I mentioned, like I narrated. That's where we are today.
All right. Well, now, at this point, what I would like to tell the listening audience is all you got to do is press 1 on the phone, and that'll give me an indication that you have something to say to my guest. If you have a question for my guest, Dr. Walter Williams, we'll open up the phone line so you can ask your question. Okay? Now, Dr. Williams, we have one caller at area code 646. I'm going to open up the phone line to see what he has to say, what his question is. Area code 646, what's your question for my guest? Tell us who you are and where you're calling from.
Yeah, hello, my name is Hazia Killen, and hello? Yes.
Hello, come on.
To Dr. Walter Williams. So I have a question. My question is pertaining to the creation story, the birth of Jesus the Christ, and I just want to know the geographical location that we call today Israel, which was once part of Northeast Africa, and how did that region became the location of the mythological story of Christ? How that location was chosen? I just want to get an understanding of it.
Well, the story comes out of like I said, the resurrection story of ancient Egypt of Osiris, coming from the Ennead, like I mentioned. And I think the question that you asked me is where did this Jesus the Christ story originated? It originated, well, as you know, Jesus the Christ was created, like I mentioned, in Ephesus in 431, along with his non-human created creature, mother, the Virgin Mary. And when the seed of Christianity, which is the first seed of Christianity, was in Northeast Africa in the double-walled city of Constantinople. Constantinople today is called Istanbul, Turkey. And when that seed was moved and transferred out of Northeast Africa, out of the double-walled city of Constantinople, into Europe, they took that same story coming from the Ennead and applied it to this Jesus the Christ. So now, when the seed of Christianity was transferred out of Northeast Africa, out of the double-walled city of Constantinople, out of the world's first Christian church, the Hagia Sophia, they changed Christianity altogether. So, like I said before, and many times I've said that today's Christianity is altogether different from the creation of the real human Christianity. It is a European Christianity that the world is getting by way of the seed being moved from Northeast Africa into Europe in 1439. So today, as I speak, you're getting a different Christianity. And when that seed was moved, they created a death, burial, and resurrection story coming from the paintings of Leonardo da Vinci. Those paintings of Leonardo da Vinci became the foundation of today's Christianity coming out of Europe. And the painting called the Resurrection Story and the stories attached to it, those stories were created by Desiderius Erasmus, who was a playwright at that time. And he lived during the time of Leonardo da Vinci. So they collaborated, and Leonardo da Vinci drew the paintings. Erasmus made up the stories to go along with that painting. Now, the next picture that you see, or painting that you see done by Leonardo da Vinci, was that of the Crucifixion of Christ. And again, the painting is only a painting, and the stories that is attached to the crucifixion was done by Desiderius Erasmus. And then the next painting by Leonardo da Vinci was that of Mary Magdalene, coming to and approaching the tomb of Jesus, seeing a stone being rolled back from the burial place where they, after the crucifixion, that they had buried Jesus in the ground, and they resurrected, so-called, this Jesus Christ, who was buried supposedly in this tomb, had resurrected up to heaven to be with his Father. So now, what I'm trying to say is this. That is how they attach the story of the resurrection coming out of ancient Egypt to today's resurrection of Christ. Okay? Now, so that's how that was done. And I want to remind the listening audience of this. Christ, the non-human Christ, and the non-human Virgin Mary, his supposed mother, was created at Ephesus in 431. So now, here you have a supposed Christ being created along with the Virgin Mary in 431, and then you're going to have the Last Supper of Christ. 1,045 years later, you find the Last Supper of Christ, then the crucifixion of Christ. Now, when you understand that a person who's on death row, and it's time for that person to be executed, he's given his last meal of anything that he wants to eat. So that, if you're on death row, you get your Last Supper, and then your last meal, and then they take you into the execution chamber and electrocute you, however way they put you to death. So the same thing that here you have the creation of Christ in 431 and the Last Supper and the crucifixion 1,045 years later. So think about that. So that's my answer to you, my brother.
How about that, bro?
Yes.
Are you with me, man?
Much. Yes, I am with you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well answered. Well answered. And then is there also, like, Dr. Walter Warner can elaborate on the letter J, how it came about Jesus, because a lot of us are confused about Jesus, because back in the day we know that there was no J, but we just want to know how the Europeans came up with the letter J. Like that.
Okay, well, here, let me elaborate on that. The letter J is a chapter written in my first book, The Historical Origin of Christianity. My wife, Sister Arnetta, wrote that chapter called The Origin of the Letter J. The letter J came into being in 1630 by taking the letter I, bringing it below the line, and putting a curve on it. And so that was the creation of the letter J in 1630. So the letter J came about in 1630. Before 1630, you had no letter J. So if one read my book, The Historical Origin of Christianity, and go to chapter 9, you'll see the history of the letter J written by Sister Arnetta Williams. That's my answer to you. Okay, my brother, thanks so much for your call.
Thank you so much, Dr. Walter Williams. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay.
All right. Let me go on down, Dr. Williams. We have another call at area code 312. I'm going to open up the phone line, then we can go in. Area code 312, you're on the air. Tell us who you are, where you're calling from, with your question or comment.
Okay, thank you, Brother Tarhaka. Okay.
You're welcome, little mama. Come on.
Mayat Hotep.
Mayat Hotep.
Okay, I'm calling from Chicago.
All right.
Okay, before we proceed with this, I, if you don't mind, would like to just take a minute and acknowledge that this is the 53rd year since Dr. King was assassinated on April the 4th, and it happens to coincide with Easter this year. Now, Dr. King was a real person, and it was a historical event, and it occurs on the same date each year, April the 4th. Okay, so you will understand as we go on that I'm establishing something there, okay?
Yes, you are. You sure live. Yes, you did.
Okay, and of course, you know, the whole world has our deepest sympathy and compassion for Dr. King and reverence for him. But I thought it was so appropriate that we should mention him on this particular day. Okay. All right. I'm Arnetta. Okay, so I hear Dr. Williams saying, give your name. All right, so that's my name. All right, and
again, sister, welcome. Come on,
thank
you.
All right.
Without interruption, please.
Okay. Oh, please, Dr. Williams, let us do this. Okay, I have a few comments on what's not necessarily what's being said so far, but I just have a few things I would like to say, and that is that everybody pretty much knows that our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, were students of nature, okay, and the universe, the cosmos, if you will. I believe that they lived in a constant state of wonderment, inquiry, wondering how does it all work, and understanding that they're the first and oldest civilization. That makes a lot of sense to me because they had nothing preceding their own time to work with. So they had to kind of figure that out on their own. So we have to thank them for astrology, astronomy, the myths, the metaphors, understanding the seasons, creating time, helping us to understand the hours, the days, the weeks, the months, the years. All of that emanates out of the society of the ancient Egyptians, out of that civilization. Those are all things that have helped to establish what we know today as civilization. And they celebrated. They were in awe of nature, and they celebrated it. They timed it. That helped them in their everyday lives to figure out what nature was going to do next. It took them time. I have no idea how long it might have taken them, but they figured it out, and they provided us with that foundation that we work with today. So they were really something, and they were in tune with nature. Now, many religions today, they kind of teach us away from nature. And I think it's out of fear that the majority might figure this thing out. And they want to keep mystery surrounding it, want to keep us in the dark, if you will, because the secret will be out. But it's coming out. So they might as well get ready for it. Now, our ancestors, of course, did not celebrate Easter. Easter is a perversion of, I would say, the vernal equinox celebration, which is the spring celebration, because I think I alluded to our ancestors understanding how the seasons were divided, what was important about that, and how we got to that. For example, the rotation of the earth around the sun, and then the moon rotating around the earth. And so that all has to do with timing and understanding a cycle, which really was ongoing, and they understood that. So again, I would say that our folks did not celebrate Easter, but they had festivals where they celebrated the various seasons. And the vernal equinox, or the spring equinox, which Easter is ensconced in or hidden in, is one of the Christianity holidays. And that holiday is so important to Christianity. But before I go on to that, most of us know that around March the 20th every year is when spring occurs. It's when the sun appears to cross the equator. That's the vernal equinox, and we get equal day and night. But we know that the sun doesn't move. Okay, so it's the earth rotating on its axis that's happening, but it gives the appearance that the sun is moving. But the sun is immutable. It stays. Okay, it doesn't move. And that proves important down the line, because you will hear in Christianity that the sun is the same. He doesn't change. They're talking about the S-O-N, and they took that from the concept of the S-U-N. Okay? So, but anyway, that's one of their little dirty secrets.
Okay.
But it marks the arrival of spring.
Okay.
Is what it does. Okay? And while the vernal equinox, it does arrive approximately the same time in the northern hemisphere. And while that's arriving in the north, we have the autumn in the southern hemisphere. Now, the interesting thing about Easter, or Resurrection, okay, because this is also known as Resurrection Sunday. Not only Easter Sunday, but Resurrection Sunday.
Okay.
And this is a very important holiday. Now, let me just kind of back up just a wee bit here and say that Easter is held on the first Sunday after the date of the first full moon, which occurs after March 20th, okay, or after the vernal equinox. So this means that Easter date changes. It doesn't remain the same. Now, earlier, if you remember, I alluded to Dr. King and him being a historical person, and something historical occurred, and that date doesn't change. It's still April the 4th, and it'll always be April the 4th. But when it comes to Easter, the supposed resurrection day of a so-called Jesus Christ, how does that change? Unless it's based on nature. Okay? So it's because of the perversion of the vernal equinox that we get this changing. And I don't think enough of us question that enough, because April the 4th, whether it's on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, it's still going to be April the 4th. So Easter is calculated to land on a Sunday. And that's also because it has to correspond with the Passover. Now I'm not going to get into all of that right now, but they tried to calculate this whole thing so that Passover always preceded Easter, but it doesn't necessarily work out that way. Because remember, the so-called Jesus the Christ was supposed to be celebrating Passover, which translates now into him having his Last Supper before his crucifixion. But anyway, that's just a little side note. But Easter, Resurrection Sunday, is the heart of Western religion. No resurrection, no Christianity. Okay? Because then the so-called Jesus, the Christ, would just be another man if he didn't come back from the dead and ascend to his Father, to the right hand of his Father. He'll be just like everybody else, dead. And that's the end of it. Okay, so they had to bring him back. And some believe he ascended, I guess, that Sunday. Then you read some other places where it was 40 days later, and you get a whole lot of different stories. But that's what happens when you're telling a story as opposed to actual historical facts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
So, all right. So,
all right. Well, Queen, Annetta,
I'll take a breath. Oh, that's my story so far.
Dr. Williams, I'm doing everything I can on him. I'm trying to bite my tongue to keep him left.
Well, this is a very serious
box and told everything.
This is a very serious subject that we're talking about. I don't see anything to laugh about. Really, this is
that's okay. He can laugh.
Well, the reason why I'm laughing is because I know beyond any shadow of a doubt that she's telling the truth, but it is amazing how she brought it in and put it up and took out all the stops and everything. Oh, my goodness.
Yes,
this
for
is
our
wonderful.
Okay. For our folks, yeah, it was a time, the vernal equinox was a time to celebrate because this was all about their annual inundation, okay, where the silt came in. I don't know how to explain that a lot. And the orbiting around the sun, and it represented Osiris, the son of the sun, who, when he passed, was killed. We'll just say it like it is. And he was put back together and all of those things and resurrected. He became in charge of not only, I guess the upper world, up and down, or the higher world and the lower world. He went into he became the deity of the underworld, yielding vegetation. Sometimes you see Osiris depicted as being green. Okay, and Egypt was known as a food basket. Okay, so we're talking vegetation here and the beauty. So we understand the sun, many of us do, that we appreciate it because without the sun, the earth would freeze over. So it is so important, the S-U-N. So they tried to take all those attributes and characteristics and put them into this made-up creature. They had to keep embellishing the story to try to make it real. And when they kill him and resurrect him, then you can only do that supposedly to a person, right? And so whatever trick they needed to try to keep adding to your mind that this was real, he came to for your sins, okay? He died for your sins. And, well, some people say people are still dying because of sin. So why is all of that? You know, we have to question this thing. So Christianity really secretly represents the earth's orbit around the sun, but they don't want us to understand that. And, you know, it's kind of curious because I think it's in the language, German language, it's spelled, I think even the S-U-N might be spelled S-O-N. So things can kind of vary even from language to language in terms of spelling. But anyway, we tell you that all of these things about this so-called Jesus the Christ, and they know better. I'm convinced that especially the Catholic Church. Now I might give some of our other churches a little bit of leeway, but the story exists in the Vatican, I believe, right now, in the ancient Egyptian, the Coptic Library and Museum. They have that. Why do they have that there? Why do they need a library of our things? Because they were the direct benefactors of them when they went into the Hagia Sophia and took it out, okay? And eventually, we believe that's what was delivered to the Vatican. And this has come up before. Dr. Williams has talked about this. They have all these rules for getting into the Vatican. I think you have to live in Italy for a year, and you have to get a recommendation from a university. They're still trying to keep it very cloaked and hidden. But anyway, okay. So I'll take a break now.
Queen Annetta, you did a wonderful, 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 magnificent job. Dr. Williams.
Yes.
Come on, man.
Before we're going to have something on the commercialization of Easter as well. Sister Emma's going to give that to us.
Ooh. All right.
If she's with us yet.
Dr. Williams, let me tell you something.
Okay.
The Queen had said something early on, and when she first started talking, and so I want to make it real. She mentioned time, and she mentioned the months and the days and the stuff like that, and she mentioned the fact that our ancient ancestors, the Egyptians, was at one with nature. I don't know if she know how real that was, but it was really real. Let me tell you what happened. One morning, I got up early in the morning, and what I used to do is run all the way down there to the corner and grab me a handful of rocks and put them in my pocket, and because I have a slingshot. But this particular morning, when I got the rocks, I got down there on the sugarcane patch, and I seen a bird laying on the ground. And I reached in my pocket to get a rock, and I'm about 30, 40 feet away. But out of all the perfect rocks I had in my pocket, I grabbed the worst rock that I had in my pocket and put in that slingshot, and I shot it. That rock hit that bird in the left eye, and she went to flapping. I couldn't believe it, because what I was supposed to do was run down there and get that bird, pluck the feathers off and then eat it, but I didn't do that. I ran down there, and I was so amazed at what had happened. I picked the bird up, and I looked at her, and she was dead, and I dropped it out my hand. On summer of 1969, me and my brother started fighting over ice cream. He turned around and threw a knife and hit me in my left eye and put it out. Dr. Williams.
Yes.
Come on, man. Let's roll.
Yes. Okay, well, we have to continue on with our the Resurrection of Osiris. And Sister Arnetta is a terrific researcher on her own. And she presented a magnificent presentation that relates to the day and the time that we're living in at this very moment. So thank you, Sister Arnetta, for that information. And I learned from you, from your words that you spoke this evening. I began to recall the information that you were explaining in your presentation. I began to recall some of that information that I had already knew about, but I've forgotten about it. So you woke up and shook me into realize that what you were saying is absolutely the truth. So thank you, my dear sister and my dear wife, for your insight and your knowledge that you presented to us today through this radio broadcast. And the next person that we would like to bring in, Brother Tarhaka, is Sister Emma McGowan. Sister Emma McGowan is my sister-in-law. In other words, Sister Emma McGowan is the sister of Sister Arnetta. So we're going to bring her in at this moment to explain about the Easter bunny and the Easter rabbit and the eggs and so forth and so on. So, and the commercialization.
One on the phone.
Hold on, Tarhaka. And the commercialization of this day that we supposedly they are celebrating, which is Easter. So she's going to bring in and give us information concerning today as to how the behavior of the people are reacting or due to this so-called celebration of today's Easter. Sister Emma? Sister Emma?
Yeah, she got press 1 on the phone. That'll give me an indication over here on the switchboard that she in. Unless she in the house with you. If she in the house with you, no. I can't see it, man. I can't bring her in unless she puts 1 on. Oh, there she goes. Come on in there, Billy.
In the house. Good morning. What's wrong with you, Tarhaka, today? You ate too many Easter eggs? Hey, have the bunny been chasing you this morning?
I got away from him.
Oh, you got away from him? Oh,
I got away from him. Welcome, sister. What's your take on this thing?
Oh, no, I'm just thinking, that the Easter bunny, we dress up. It's a day we dress up and celebrate. I don't know what happens with this COVID. Maybe it's not too many people dressed up. I'm not sure.
Okay. Now, tell us about the commercial side of this thing.
Well, you know what the commercial side
right.
is. We celebrate Easter, aren't we?
Yeah, sure is.
Stores are closed because of Easter. We have parades because of Easter.
Yeah.
Here come Peter Cottontail because of Easter. But you say you got away from him this morning. I'm not so sure. What did that bunny have? What did you take from that bunny?
This morning I had a big old day because my brother, he come in here from Bahrain. Yesterday he come through the Mediterranean and coming in and spent the day with me. And then my sister come up from down there in Florida City, and her and her husband and stuff, and we had a day, and I had to put together the show and stuff. But they know I don't do the Easter Bunny and none of that stuff. All of them know that. So we going to we finna go to church this morning. So I don't mess with them. They don't mess with me. And they do their thing, but they know doggone well not to ask me about none of that kind of stuff because I ain't doing it. So I had a wonderful evening, and there was no Easter Bunny over here doing nothing. But I'm glad to hear you on with us.
No,
I
was just thinking about the religion part of it, and I don't see any significance really of celebrating Easter. Yeah, Jesus supposed to have died and came back, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Came back. Okay. Well, anyway, I don't know. I can't get my thoughts together right now. But anyway. I just thought it was kind of ridiculous that that we celebrate this stuff and I don't think we really understand what we celebrate. I think we've been just sold a bunch of goods all the time, but it reinforces what we've been told. Easter is a reinforcement of Christmas, etc., etc. Yeah. But
well, in my personal opinion, I think our people have a very, very serious problem. And I was with a friend of mine yesterday, and she has 2 bachelor's degrees and a master's degree. And I asked her, I say, in your personal opinion, what do you think our people is the biggest problem that our people suffer from? She said, well, they believe some stuff. I said, well, how about reading, writing, and arithmetic? She said, well, that's the bottom line. I said, okay. That's what it is. We won't read, we won't think, we won't count.
But but when you go to school, where is any implication at all, or either hint that this stuff is not true? There's no hint of it.
Well, no, they can't. See, in the first place, in order for America and the Europeans inside the United States, in order for them to have things that they have and do the things that they do, in order for them to have that, we, me and you, we had to be literally out of our mind. We have to be. There's no other way for me to put it. We have to be literally out of our minds. Because, see, it's impossible for you to get an education in the United States. The only thing that you can get is indoctrination, masquerading as education.
Okay.
That's all you
truth,
get.
right there.
Because if I was in elementary school and you're going to give me an education, the first thing you got to tell me is who I am, and then after that you got to tell me everything about who I am and the ancient story of my ancestors and all that before you get to the ABCs. All that got to be done before you get to the ABCs. And if you ain't doing that, then I'm suffering from miseducation. But our people still think they're going to get an education inside the United States of America. You can't. Because America, first of all, they can't even afford it. I can see if the United States had money backing up every dollar that they got, because if you got $1 bill, you need to have a piece of gold backing it up. And if you ain't got a piece of gold backing that dollar bill up, you ain't got no money. So, and you bankrupt and all of that. So how can you afford to educate anybody on anything? You can't. That's just my personal opinion.
But I don't think that was the intention, even when they had a certain amount of gold to back up the money.
That's right. They sure didn't. When they intentioned, because they still can't educate you.
No, because they educated people.
They're going to have to teach you how to handle power. Oh, we ain't doing that.
Well, you know, the power it's just like, most people get their power to the money, politicians, president, all that. They don't figure they have any. and they give it away. But they may not have the money, but they can manifest it by having a different way of thinking. I mean, they can do anything a politician can do, but when you look for somebody to save you instead of you looking for a way to save yourself, it changes the game. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
No. You are absolutely correct.
That's right.
The thing I would like to see people do is find out who they are and the powers that they do have and how to exert those powers so they benefit. And when you benefit yourself in many ways, you benefit humanity because you're thinking different now.
Well, in order for them to do that, they're going to have to learn how to read, write, and arithmetic.
Well, most people know that, but when they go to school, but they have to learn how to think and not believe.
May I interject something here?
Come on.
Can I interject something here?
Yes, you can.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was just simply going to say that power concedes nothing without a demand. But first of all, we got to do some things at home from the cradle, okay?
Right.
Way before we get to talking about school, because our kids need to be self-possessed by the time they go to school. In other words, they got to have a good sense of who they are. And I think most importantly, they need to feel secure in who they are and that someone has their back. Somebody is there for them, because we already know that they're going to meet opposition once they go to school. That's the whole idea, to keep things disrupted. So, the little bit they might have to teach you, and it depends on the setting that you're in, because I think I discovered that the kids who tended to go to an all-black school, when I was coming along, they were smart. I felt they were smarter. They did better because they had people who cared for them, who were teaching them. And that's an integrated school. It was different. And now I'm understanding that they've retired a lot of the black teachers, and it's getting even worse. You got young white teachers, inexperienced, who haven't been exposed to us, don't know anything about us. First thing they want to do is punish, get the harshest punishments that they can find. There's no love there. It's no caring there. So we have to do it at home.
I have to agree with you 100%. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah, we have to get it started at home anyway. And we have to let these educational institutions know what we're expecting from them, and we need to be involved and checking on them and going to those parent-teacher meetings and calling for a meeting when it's necessary. And I say always be available. Let them know if there's any issue, I'm here. Call me. Let's discuss. So I'm saying we got to get involved. We can't leave it up to anybody else, because nobody's going to care for ours like we do our own. And I don't even think money's an issue. Money's not the issue. That's an excuse for them. Mhm.
Yeah,
but anyway, that's my comment on that.
Again. You are right again. Absolutely correct. The only thing. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I just wanted to share that perspective on it.
Okay. Emma, what you got?
Well, I think it does start in the home, but sometimes it's very difficult, like Walter had said before. Sometime before, it is difficult to teach it when you are, the only thing you know is the same thing. That the general, folks
Right, that's true.
is saying and doing. Yeah, it's very difficult.
Right,
to
I
come
understand
from
what you're saying. Sometimes the
Yeah.
parents don't know much of anything,
that. Right.
but it's
And
incumbent
they-
upon.
But we spend a lot of time telling our, but anyway, we spend time right. Let's like now. Oh, what to do and say to the police and fear of the police and all that stuff. Fear brings fear. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, it'll bring fear upon you. You're right. It'll bring the situation.
It would have, right. It'll bring that situation to them. And I'm saying, wait a minute. Why are we living in a society that we have to walk on eggshells all the time and hoping they don't crack? To me, that is about as dumb as you can get.
It is dumb as you can get. Yeah, and you know, we can go back to
expect us to do it, but for other people to expect us to do it is another horrific. It ain't just horrible. It is horrific that they got a mindset that they go police us like we run Easter bunnies or something. You know, after a while it gets old, it gets stale, and I'm saying, you know what? You stop fearing the police. You ignore the police. If you're not doing anything, and if you are doing something, I'm not saying curse them out. You can be courteous. He has no right to shoot you. But when you bring fear in the game, a lot of people love fear. It makes them, it just draws them to you. And you don't, that's some of the power that you do have. Very simple. Don't draw what you don't want to you. Okay?
Exactly.
You having, in any relationship, whether you having a bad relationship with a woman, a guy, a cat, a dog, or whatever, you got to see what part you play in it. Don't always be the victim.
That's right. You can't. You can't. It's, Yeah, I agree with that. And then a lot of people who go to church, I think the church. I'm sorry. What'd you say, Brother Tom? The church has an obligation here too, since we have so many people who are still in the church. More reverends are stepping up, but we have professionals within the church too. So a lot of things can happen there as well. So we got to pull all resources to get the best possible outcome. And you're right, Emma, in terms of understanding our power.
Right.
But like you said, if the parents don't know to teach that, then we have to do something to teach it.
Right.
You know,
but we have
a lot of us are not. A lot of us are not born dumb. A lot of us is born sharp as a whip. We was born.
That's right. Yeah, we get dumbed down, and we get taught certain things. And, like TV, you don't just turn your child loose under a television and let that TV babysit your child. You got to be there to give some commentary and to put things in perspective. But if you have the luxury to do that, everybody doesn't have the same luxuries. We know that. But we got to help whenever we see.
Can I tell y'all what happened to me a couple of months ago? It's a girl that lived down the street from me. She told me, she said, I got to go get my hair done. Can you watch my grandson until I come back? I said, well, wait a minute. I said, I'm a bachelor. I'm sitting out here. I'm chilling. I'm listening to me a little music. I said, how old is he? He said, he's 9 years old. I said, all right, bring him over here. So I invited that little boy in the house. And when we got in the house, I asked him what he want to watch on the TV and what is it. He didn't want to do none of that. But what I found out is that he wanted to hold a conversation with me.
Oh,
said, well, okay.
Want some attention.
And so we went outside, and we sit in the front yard, and boy, he started talking. And I asked him, I said, do you have a girlfriend? He said, I used to have a girlfriend. I said, I said, well, used to? I said, what happened?
He said, she was trying to kiss me. I said, how you know she was trying to kiss you? She said, I wasn't he said, I wasn't even looking. I was looking the other way, and when I turned around, she was puckering up. I said, what?
9 years old.
I laughed. That was the most wonderful evening that I ever had with that boy there. He went and talking. He went and telling me about the classmates and what they trying to teach him in school, and he was rolling. And I was listening. I said, that's what's going on inside the school and stuff.
But you said something very important, though, Tarhaka, communicating with our children.
Right.
And listening to them and asking them their opinion. What do they think? What do they want to do? You know, I don't think folks get asked often, because I remember kind of being surprised when somebody said, well, what do you think about so-and-so? Well, nobody ever much cared about that, because grown folks a lot of times were so busy talking to each other that you were just kind of like a wallflower. And that's important, that we interact with our children as much as possible. That's how they become more verbal and analytical. You know,
well, I
if we're gonna,
that out.
We think, yeah. So you did him well. That'll probably be with him the rest of his life, that he got a chance to express himself like that.
Well, I tell you what, that was on that day there, that was the most remarkable day, because I was upset with her, because she was, she know I'm a bachelor, and she know I'm down here and I'm by myself. I like to do what I like to do. I be relaxing, and she finna bring a child over here. I don't know what to do with that. And but that boy, he started talking, and I couldn't shut him up. When she come back to get him, I said, I had so much fun. I said, this was the most wonderful day that I'd ever had in my life with him down here. He said, like, he talked your ears off, didn't he? I said, yeah, and I want him talked off.
Oh, okay. So he had been talking to her too, okay.
Yeah, I asked her. I said, did he tell you about his girlfriend? Yeah, he told me about it. I said, okay.
Oh, okay. Great,
but that
great.
boy, he told me, he said him and his he said him and his sister were fighting. And she tried to hit him with a brush, but he ducked, and the brush hit the TV and broke the TV. Said, we ain't had it for 3 days. I said, ooh, who got a whooping? I said, what?
Well, I know one thing. He had enough sense to know he wasn't ready for no kissing.
He said, he don't want none of me.
Let's get back to our subject.
All right, boys.
Well,
okay, Dr. Williams.
Okay.
Come on, man.
Okay, let's
call
stay
us
on
on
course.
the carpet. After he's calling us out.
Yeah, let's stay on course. And
okay.
This is a very serious subject that we're talking about today, the resurrection.
It is, because it's giving information to people who need it, who've maybe never thought about some of the things that we're talking about. And we need as much information to get out of this quagmire as possible, okay, and stop being so fearful of things that aren't even true.
Right.
Huh?
No, I'm just saying.
I have to agree.
Yeah, and
but
you know.
You remember at the outside of the broadcast, as of February the 12th, we're no longer in the age of believing. We are now officially in the age of knowing for a fact and what we can prove. That's where we are astrologically, and it goes hand in hand with supreme mathematics.
Let him talk.
Oh, you talking? I want to ask him something. He said a magic word.
Astrological.
Okay.
Right. There you
Yeah.
go.
You can't do that without mathematics. So everything is in place, and here we are. Now it's all over for people to be just dealing with what they believe. Nice times. If you no evidence, no case, you got to know for a fact, and you can prove it. You got to put it down. That's where we are right now in 2021. Moving out of spring, going into summer. That's where we at.
Okay.
So what's gonna happen when we going in? We vibrating to the age of Aquarius. So what do you suggest?
Well, what I suggest is
Astrologically,
based
we are
on
beginning to vibrate. Huh?
We just did a 2-month investigation, and what I was looking for is my ability, the ability for my people to read, write, and arithmetic. And what I found out, and it was very, very sad to me, but what I found out is a lot of people that look like me and you, they can't count. And I went and I've been going over and over and over and over. They're driving trucks, they're driving tractors, they builders, they doing all kind of stuff, but they can't count. Because I asked this guy, he was in a big old dump truck, and I asked him, if I put $1 million in your left hand and I put nothing in your right hand, what you got? He said, okay, well, let me figure it out. I said, you ain't got to figure out nothing, man. What are you talking about?
But if you're not,
you got $1 million
so
in your left and you got nothing in the right, you got $1 million.
Right.
Okay, but maybe he couldn't even imagine $1 million in the first place. That was the first thing.
Well, we tried that too, but then we found out that that equation, I left that alone, and I started asking them bottom line basic mathematical questions, and they still had to think about it. That bothered me. Real bad.
Got to take him back to basics to bring him up. And maybe if he knows that his ancestors created mathematics, he might get real interested in it.
Yeah, but we didn't go that deep because I couldn't get past 1 + 2. But anyway, and I wasn't finna go all down in the debt with them because they still believe in the same old crap, which goes against the grain of you knowing anything for real. You can't do nothing.
He was illiterate.
You got the wrong thing in your mind.
Yeah, he was illiterate.
Maybe not. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, he's illiterate. So you got to give him the foundation.
Well, I tried to do that, and it was 2 of them in the truck, and their attitude was that I drive this truck, I work for the railroad, and I make $21 an hour. So I have arrived. Yes, maybe so. But do you know how to think? This is what I'm trying to get to the bottom of.
Right, I understand. Because he's probably doing labor work for that $21, right?
Yeah, I got home. I was so sad.
But if he's driving the truck, he's doing labor work, yeah.
Yeah, if it's labor, how much thinking does he have to do?
Right, exactly.
You don't have to do a whole lot of thinking. When you go I went in the grocery store, and it's a store down here called Roses. When I went in the grocery store, I bought what I had to get, brought it up to the counter, and put it on the counter. I know exactly how much money I'm going to spend. But the lights went out in the grocery store. And I calculated real fast in my mind, and I told the cashier, you owe me $1.62 change. She said, I got to call the manager. When the manager came, he just as he come up, the lights come back on, and he went to fumbling through the cash register and told her to give me $1.62 change. She was embarrassed. I said, now, wait a minute. You are the cashier. I told you how much you owe me, dead on point. But you had to call somebody else to come and tell you the same thing that I done told you. I know my people in trouble. They in trouble.
Well, you know, the cash register probably, but in honesty, the cash register probably told her how much it was for you to get back, but the lights went out on her.
That's right.
Exactly. And she couldn't calculate
it. That's, again, right. That's how technology dumb you down, too.
It does.
Okay.
It can, definitely.
Because she didn't have to think about that $1.62 because the lights went out. She is used to seeing on that cash register how much she should give you back.
That's right.
Well, Emma,
That's
let
right.
me ask you. Let me ask you a question, Emma. Can I ask you a question, Emma?
Yeah.
Is that an excuse for her not knowing how to count?
It may not be, but that's where we're going with not just her, but all people. I mean, I've gone in the store and say, I want a couple of something. Okay, give me a couple of those. They don't know what a lot of times they don't know what I'm talking about. I said 2. Then I just say 2. Because the language, I'm just saying, the language changed the language changed, and we have to understand the technology, people in certain things do not have to think. And that's just a way going forward, getting control of your mind, which they basically have now. We don't really need to think. It's like even with religion. When we talk about religion a lot of times, people will say, how many people, even if they don't believe in their heart, they going to say they do because they don't want to be criticized or disliked or deemed crazy. That's how it goes. Society puts pressure on you.
Or just in case.
Right, exactly.
In case I don't want to go to hell.
Right, that's right. I don't want to go to hell.
All right,
that's
y'all.
Right. Good enough.
Okay, now, Dr. Williams, I have a question for you. You with me, brother?
Yeah, I'm here.
Do you think, and I just need your opinion, do you think that Osiris knew how to read, write, and count?
Osiris. Well, Osiris is based off of mythology. Therefore, Osiris is not a human being. So my answer to you is that Osiris, story of Osiris, about Osiris, is a myth. So therefore, my answer to you is that a person who comes out of mythology, a person that is connected to a myth, cannot read or write. And it has nothing to do with intelligence and the greatness of the ancient Egyptians, where, like I mentioned before, that the story or the Genesis story of ancient Egypt is called the Ennead, E-N-N-E-D. The first 5 of the 9 deities of the Ennead is pertaining to creation. It's pertaining to man and nature. So Osiris, again, comes out of mythology, out of the Ennead. And I just described at the beginning of my narration of the Ennead about Osiris. He was the first and oldest mythical story ever told, because it's coming from the world's first and oldest civilization and civilized people, the ancient Egyptians. So that's my answer to you, Brother Tarhaka.
Okay, well, Dr. Williams, I'm going to take a little quick break. Y'all hold on a minute. We'll be right back. Hold on a minute.
Okay.
For Tarhaka's free report, go to tarhakadebtelimination.org. Put in your email address, and he will rush your free report to your email box. Learn about what's going on in America. Learn about big tobacco and what's in it for you. Go to www.tarhakadebtelimination.org. I'm Chantel. Thanks.
Rather than use the term white supremacy, use the term white aggression. Okay, put that on the board. Erase the term white supremacy, put white aggression on the board. Does that change the circumstances? I have found that it doesn't. You can switch words around and play with words all you want to. I say that to people based on logic. But if the situation is the same, what does supreme means? Why are you afraid of it? Anything can be supreme, you know. I mean, if you let it, and we let the system of white supremacy exist, simply because we think we can wish it away. We don't make any effort to replace it with a better system, and that better system would be the system of justice, logically speaking. They say, yeah, but, you know, you're giving you know, those white aggressors, they ain't nothing. I mean, you're giving them too much credit. I'm not giving them anything other than what the rest of us are giving. I mean, you know, I'm giving them what I'm giving them, and that is what they demand that they want. Now, if that ain't supreme, I don't know what is. I do what they tell me to do. That's supreme, folks. I don't tell them what to do. They tell me what to do. I'm a prisoner of war. I was born in a prison. Every non-white person who is existing now, truth be told, is a prisoner of the system of white supremacy. That's why we are protesting how we are being treated. They are not protesting how they are being treated by us. That's supreme. That's what supreme means. It doesn't mean you are good. See, people get the two words mixed up. Words are very important. If you say white aggression, yes, it's white aggression. That's how they got to be supreme. They were very aggressive in becoming supreme. They say we're going to take over the non-white people of this world, black, brown, red, and yellow, and having them begging us about whether or not they'll be able to eat tomorrow or today or sleep tonight, because we can kill them anytime we want to, all of them. And they can't kill us anytime they want to kill us, because a lot of them might want to kill us right now, but they don't have the know-how, and they ain't got the muscle. All right, just like, you know, in the Corleones, if you want to use the Godfather movie as an example. Hey, who has the muscle? Who has the muscle? Well, if we had it, then they wouldn't be treating us like this. This is the kind of thinking that gets black people in trouble when they jump out of a car when they are being pulled over, and an armed person walks up to them, and that person has a white face who may or may not be a racist, and all of a sudden, woof, 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 woof. Black people have, you know, a lot of us have these big, heavy voices. A lot of us been lifting weights and all like that, and we got a lot of muscle in our bodies, but not a whole lot of muscle, the record has shown, in our brains, all right? We are not known to be the most brainiest people in the world. Truth be told, and the white supremacists know that because they have seen to it that we haven't learned very much in the little time that we have been under their tutelage, because they block us from learning. But we walk around trying to make ourselves believe that we know everything, and that does not pay off very well, particularly when we start trying to express it in the form of counter-aggression against the aggressor. Like I said, many of us, and I've seen it, and some of us have experienced it, jumping out of the car, woof, 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 woof. You ain't gonna put them cuffs on me. I mean, you know, I got my rights. I know what my rights are. I'm tired of this. You know, woof, 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 woof. Okay, all right, woof, woof, woof. And what has the record shown? That most of us who do that wind up out of this world within the next 2 or 3 seconds. And everybody that's supposed to be our homies, our kin folks, our friends, people who are fighting for our rights and all like that, out there with signs and balloons and candles and teddy bears for the 10 millionth time saying, woe is me, this has got to stop, we can't have no more of this. But it all started with that being unrealistic, with woof, 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 woof. I know my rights. You can't do this to me. Oh, hey, boy, I can't do this to you when I have been doing it to everybody that looks like you, and my foreparents before me been doing it to everybody that looks like you, like forever in recorded history, and you bang, 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 bang. Okay, now what do you say?
All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Williams, you still with me?
Oh, yes, I'm here, Brother Tarhaka. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I hear you loud and clear. You come across loud and clear, my brother. I have a question for you.
Okay.
Now, based on what you have told us tonight about Osiris, what do you think, now that we know this, that we should be doing tomorrow?
Tomorrow and every day after tomorrow, we should go and find our way back to ancient Egypt. Claim the greatest people that's ever walked this earth, known in history as the ancient Egyptians, and claim them as our ancestors. The world is waiting for us to announce to them who we are, and that's who we are. And we should find out what happened to our African ancient Egyptian ancestors after the Greeks and the Romans came into Egypt. You have to use the discipline of history to do just that. Without knowing that history of what happened to our African ancient Egyptian ancestors after the Greeks and Romans came into Egypt, then you have no foundation of understanding who we are as a people, who our ancestors are, and we have no idea of the history that brought us from 10,000 BC all the way up to 2021 CE. So we need to know all of that history. We need to stay out of these churches. We need to know who our God deities are that look like us. We should know about this icon and symbol of white supremacy that's hanging in all churches throughout America and throughout the world, a dead white man on the cross. We should know about that image, and once we know about that image, that will give us knowledge as to who we are and as to what happened to our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, after the Greeks and the Romans came into Egypt. So that would be my answer to you, Brother Tarhaka.
All right. Well, I got area code 312 is on the line. I'm going to open up the phone line and see what they got to say. Area code 312, you're on the air.
Is that me?
You're on the air.
This is Brother Yoel from Underground Bookstore weighing in. A little late there, but, better late than never, they say.
What's up, man? Come on.
Oh, man, ain't nothing going on.
Now, you know I'm country. Leave me alone.
Hey, I'm a small-town country boy myself, So, we two peas in the pot, just like Stevie Wonder.
Okay. What's on your mind, man?
Listen, first of all, I'd like to say good evening to yourself, Professor Williams, the listening audience, and everybody. And I kind of just wanted to get a little bit more specific with the question you just asked the doctor there, what should we be doing now? And that is specifically what kind of how would that process look by reclaiming our ancient Egyptian ancestry? When you say claim it, a lot of people may not be clear on what that means, and I'm one that's a little vague on that too. Besides claiming them in my head and studying the history and whatnot, how else do we claim that?
Okay, you claim that by identifying them racially and spiritually with yourself. You have a magazine that came out in 2016, I believe, or 17, with a picture of King Tut on the front cover. I asked you to go and buy that magazine, which you did. And I told you to look in the King Tut's face. You cannot deny that that's not an African. That looks just like you, me, and every other African in this country. That is called Negro. Okay? Now, either you accept that you're an ancient Egyptian or you don't. You accept that your ancestors are the ancient Egyptians, the world's greatest people that's ever walked this earth, the one that's brought civilization to all of humanity, or you don't. Okay? Now, at one time, you accepted this Black Hebrew Israelitism. Okay? Without any questions, I'm assuming. Now, when you are presented with facts about who you are, you have some doubts about that, and you're looking in the faces of your ancestors every day, and you won't claim them. You're blind. What's happening, my brother? They're there. That's the facts, and facts are stronger than argument, more profound than reasoning, more dependable than opinions. Silence is dispute, supersedes prediction, and facts always ends the argument. That's my answer to you.
Okay, so how do we, in other words, I was wanting to see if, like for instance, in Moorish Science Temple, you go fill out some paperwork and you claim you correct your status in terms of on your birth certificate being Negro and stuff like that. Listed on there as Negro or Black or African American. I don't know what they are today with people who were born last 10, 15 years or so. They may be putting African American on there now. But do we go through that kind of process also by claiming that?
Claiming what?
Claiming your ancient Egyptian ancestry.
That's your nationality. Okay?
Right. That would be our nationality.
What was that?
That would be our nationality too, right? Ancient Egyptian.
That's what I've been saying all along. You claim ancient Egypt and the ancient Egyptians and the country of Egypt as your nationality. That's what you do. Okay? When my wife and I got married, we got married in Orlando, Florida, and we went into the state house there to get our marriage license. They asked a question on the marriage license. What race do you belong to? And we put down an African ancient Egyptian and got our certificate of marriage. So it's up to you to claim who you are, if you accept who you are as being just that, okay? And if you don't accept it, then there's nothing I can do about you. So I've been telling our ancestors and our people in the African community for years, we are descendants of the ancient Egyptians.
How about that? Brother Yoel?
Okay. So you go fill out the necessary paperwork here to correct your birth certificate and correcting your status. Okay.
All right. Well, wait a minute, because I know what the problem is.
Come on.
See, the thing is, you are under the impression that you have been regarded as a Negro, colored, black, African American, all these things right here. However, that's something somebody done to you. So now, if you're going to proclaim your nationality, this is what I did. Having knowledge of what I just told you, I wrote down a name for myself. I wrote down a nationality for myself. I registered that with the Moorish American government. No European, nothing. Now, what I'm looking for at this point is every document on this planet that got me listed as Negro, colored, black, and anything on a piece of paper that is evidence of a lawsuit. If I go to jail or if I go to court and I'm labeled as such, you owe me. Because the Universal Declaration of the United Nations says that every man has a right to a nationality, every man and woman has a right to change nationality. You don't need nobody to endorse you to say that you are who you say you is. All you got to do is you, and then after that, now you can go to work. That's all you got to do. All you got to do is if it ever comes up about anything about you being something that you're not, just lay the facts on the table. If you are an ancient Egyptian, you know doggone well you can prove it. It cannot be disputed. So you don't need a temple or organization or group to do anything about who you are. All you got to do is decide for yourself who you are and enforce it. Let me tell you something, man. In America, everything operates on contract. Whoever creates the contract benefits them. But if you create the contract, it benefits you. So when you create a contract, that benefits you. And you can enforce it because it's your contract. Because the United States of America does not interfere with anybody's right to make contracts. We got the phone company, we got the gas company, we got the light company, we got all these folks by the contract. In order for them to mess with you, they got to shut down all the other contracts. They ain't going to do that. So when you create your contract, you simply enforce your contract. That's it.
Well said, Brother Tarhaka. Well said.
You don't need nobody to tell you who the you is. You decide that. When you decide that, that's it. And then you enforce it. I had a young lady here. As a matter of fact, she was here yesterday. She got 2 bachelor's degrees and a master's degree. One day she called me. She say, the rent man want to evict her out of her house. I say, do he now? I say, I seen something in the mail. Yeah, I got the letter down here. I say, you looked over the letter? Yeah, I looked over the letter. I said, you got it with you? Yeah. I said, bring it over here and let me look at it. Okay, I'll be over there in a minute. She come over here with it. I looked at it, and I gave it back to her. And keep in mind, she got 2 bachelor's degrees and a master's degree, and she's a teacher in school. I said, is this thing in order right here? Yeah, everything is. Yeah, it's. I said, let me make sure I understand this right. Is that your name right there at the top of the page? Yeah, yeah, that's my name. I said, are you sure? I said, you done forgot what they taught you in 3rd grade grammar about a proper noun and an improper noun. A proper noun is always spelled in upper and lowercase letters, but what happens when all the letters are capital? Well, this ain't none of me then. I said, okay. I said, well, go down to the courthouse, so you got to go down there. She was back in less than 20 minutes. I said, what happened? He said, I told him this wasn't none of me. Said the judge shut down everything and told me he gonna reschedule and told me to leave the courtroom and all that. I said, now when you go back to the courthouse, they're gonna have you in this little small room, but you tell them the same thing. She come back in less than 20 minutes again. She said the judge came in there and thrown it out. I said, okay. You decide your own identity. You never allow anyone to validate who you are. You decide that, and you enforce it. And that's all I got to say there. I hope I didn't get too excited, Dr. Williams. I just want to put that little thing out there.
Can you hear me, Brother Tarhaka?
Yeah, I hear you.
You said it perfectly. And again, I asked Brother Yoel again, what is your nationality?
Well, Doc, I think you're trying to single me out there, and I don't appreciate that one there because you're trying to make me say what you want me to say, you know, and I don't think that's proper to me. That
okay, well, I still ask you a question.
Huh? We're going to make it, y'all. Come on, Dr. Williams.
What's that? What was that?
He say you think
you talking to me or the Tarhaka?
Brother Yoel,
yeah.
Right. You out of order.
Okay. Anyway, Brother Yoel, okay, if you accept what you want to accept, okay? When you find out,
thank you, sir.
When you find your nationality, call me. Let me know.
I accept my ancient Egyptian heritage long time ago, but I don't like to be called out on it like you be trying to do me, Doc. Come on.
Well, why you keep coming up like you don't know, like you have doubts about it, though?
Because that's something that's close, personal to me, what I do. Not to everybody else.
Then don't bring it out on the world stage.
Well, wait a minute, Doc. Now, see, because we can get real technical with this thing, you know, because, you know, when you say claim it, I like to know what have you done to claim it? Outsiders just say it out of our mouths.
That's where you
we can get into all that kind of stuff.
Dr. Williams, let me get back in. Let me get back in one more time. Everything in America operates on contract. You cannot die and go to the funeral home and get buried without a contract. You can't go in a grocery store and buy a can of spring beans without a cashier giving you receipt. You can't do everything operates on contract. But it is up to you to decide who you are, and you don't need a contract. All you want to do is somebody else to create a contract to say contrary to who you are. That's how you get paid. Now, the reason why I know that is because I done already dealt with this town that I live in. I sent the sheriff in this town the information that I'm telling you about, and he turned around and told everybody in the jail, all the police, whatever you do, Don't mess with him because he'll tear us up. That's what happened down here. You don't need nobody to validate you. If you validate yourself, then no one else can validate you. You don't need that. All you got to do is decide who you are. That's it. You can put it in writing. You don't have to put it in writing if you don't want to. You don't have to give it to nobody. You don't have to do. All you got to do is just act like it. That's all you got to do. Act like it. If something come up about you not being who somebody said you is, you got them, son. You got them. You can tell them what you want to tell them about who you are. Just make sure that you can back it up. You can put the paper on the table. I can walk in the United States Supreme Court. I can walk in the Vatican and put it on the table and just simply turn around and walk away. It's all over about who I am.
You know why, Brother Tarhaka? Because the world know who we are. And we are the only people that has been torn away from who we are. Okay, on purpose. So the world know who we are. The United States government know who we are. The Vatican, the Pope and the Vatican know who we are. People of the world, the populace of the world know who we are. Okay? So all we have to do now is tell the world who we are. Because the time is right for the world to know who we are. So we have to tell them out of our mouth who we are. Okay? Do not let others tell us who we are. Okay? You don't do that. You claim the greatest people that's ever walked this earth. The people who brought civilization to this whole entire planet. And that's the reason why we were put into slavery. That's the reason why we were miseducated. Because our ancestors, being the ancient Egyptian, and the European is trying to steal our legacy. In fact, they have stolen our legacy. Stolen legacy. The legacy of us being descendants of the ancient Egyptians. And that's what they're trying to maintain, and they call it white supremacy. Okay? The stealing of our legacy of us being descendants of the ancient Egyptians, stolen by the European, is called white supremacy. Okay? As long as they can keep us entertained with those thoughts, we will never find our way back to ancient Egypt. And that's the purpose of white supremacy for us as an African people, not to find our way back to our greatness. So the time is now that we stand on the world stage and tell the world, hi world, I, who you thought was a Negro, I, who you thought was black, I, who you thought was an African American, are in fact descendants of the ancient Egyptians. That is my heritage. That is what was given to me and left for me, an immortal legacy of our ancestors. All we have to do is claim it. That's all I'm saying. Okay? And if I offended you, Brother Yoel, I'm very sorry about that. I apologize to you. But it's not my intentions of doing that. But if I hear the same thing that I've been telling people for years, including yourself for years, that we're descendants of the ancient Egyptians, I expect for it to sink in. If you don't agree to that, then I expect for you to say, I don't agree to that, and we can go from that point. But anyway, if I offended you in any kind of way, I apologize.
Brother Yoel? You with me, brother? Brother Yoel. Brother Yoel, you with me, Brother Yoel?
Obviously he left or something.
All right.
You can't hear me?
You hear me? I'm with you, brother. You with me?
Okay, now can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I hear
okay.
you, Susan. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, I was saying to Professor Williams, it ain't so much as he offends me, but the deal that because my skin is not that thin, but the deal is I feel like he specifically asked me that question for a purpose to go after me on that issue. That's all.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But
Well, Dr. Williams, you didn't mean that, did you?
am I still on? Oh, maybe
No, I didn't mean that.
Emma?
Hello?
Yeah.
Emma's still there. Emma.
I'm just talking.
Come on.
No, I hear you.
No, because I evidently, they talking so loud and stuff, I'm just thought I was gone. But anyway.
No, you here.
Because sometimes it takes people longer to really vibrate to something. That's why you always hear people repeating and repeating and repeating. So but the problem is it's hard for people when other people have always defined who they were. It's hard to kind of get that out of your system. It takes a while.
Okay.
I mean, it really does.
You're right.
I mean, you may get it right away. The next person may not get it for a long time because if you think about it, that is a hard subject when you've been taught something all your life. That's trying to get Jesus out of people. Trying to get Jesus out of their life. It is. It's the same thing in a way. You gotta go man's flat.
Okay. You're absolutely correct. But see, he might not, Brother Yoel, he might not be like me. Because see, me, I like shock waves. I like to walk in a building wearing it and watch the expression on people's faces as they jump the hell out of my way because they think God's coming.
I don't think they think that. Because you but here's the deal: even though Walter said everybody in the world knows, there's a lot of ignorant people walking around who don't know.
That is true.
Because I have been places where I had that button on Walter gave me. I'm an ancient Egyptian. And people look, especially the white people, they look at it, and one woman in specific, I'm not gonna name her, but what I'm saying is she saw it and she started snickering. And I didn't get angry at it, and I didn't try to explain to her. I said, I have one question for you. Is Egypt in the continent of Africa?
There you go.
She said yes, and then she felt like a fool because I guess she hadn't thought about it. She didn't know about it. Okay? I've had a few people say that. And I'm saying I don't get angry at it. Okay? But I just asked them that question.
Some of them me.
So everybody don't
I heard that.
The point you know, if you vibrate to it, everybody not vibrating the same as you at the same time.
Exactly. It's ongoing, and we have to accept that. Okay, you can say it here and there, but you got to say it all the time in every opportunity that you have. Because even when you're trying to deal with it through the system, guess what? By the time it reached some other group, they had white on our records down there. So it's ongoing. So what do? You try to correct it. Because this system has it built in place where ancient Egyptians, and they got it bad, white, non-Hispanics, and all this kind of classifications that they have. Some fundamental, elemental things have to change within this system because they're resistant to it.
The only time your life starts is slavery in America. That's where your
that's their ignorance.
And and then that's what I'm saying. And then the other part of your history, somebody questioning, you were that jungle bunny in Africa, and now you on Easter.
See, we have to keep. we have to keep. We have to keep telling our story. You know, we have to keep telling our stories, okay, of civilization and all that. And like we're talking about Easter and the resurrection of Osiris and how Christians co-opted the story, but that Osiris story is out there thousands of years before Christianity ever came along. So the more of us who understand it and realize it and start getting out of these churches, that's going to help us tremendously. But as long as we're bowing down to their God, we are a joke.
And
okay.
And it is a joke. Right, exactly.
We got work.
Sometimes let's go, they were talking about Ancestry, not to cut you off, but they were talking about, a minute ago, somebody said, what Ancestry say? What Ancestry? Okay, so I'm going to throw a wrench in it right now. Okay, so now let's go to the Ancestry. Sometimes it say, what they do is say none. You can't find out what ancestry you belong to. What does it say? I forgot. Okay, so you're mostly maybe African American. Maybe you come from Ghana. Maybe you come from West Africa, whatever they say. And then there's a part in there say none. They can't find it, right?
That's right, because they don't have those people in their database. If you don't have someone in a database, how in the hell are you going to match them up with somebody?
Maybe the database don't exist. I mean, let me just say this.
No.
What if there? Okay, we never even dream about anything but Earth. What if there are other people on Earth? Is just a planet too. Earth is just a planet.
But before we leave Earth, like even with this Ancestry stuff, I called them and said, I don't see where you have included Egypt in here. Okay, I see a lot of other countries listed here, but I don't see Egypt. Now, she's, I'll let that be known to this person and that person. So you're resistant too at that level, not you personally. They're resistant at every level because they want to keep that concealed, okay? Because a lot of them do know who we are, and they don't want that known because they put a lot of effort and money into concealing it.
Correct.
For example, earlier I was talking about I mentioned the calendar just briefly. I didn't put a date to it, but I have seen a couple of different, I've seen any number of dates actually, because you get this one doing their research, that one doing their research, this institution, and they're all trying to maintain the status quo. However, I have seen that the calendar is goes back to 4,000 BCE. I've seen 6,000. John Henry Clark said the civilization was 10,000 years old when Alexander the Greek entered Egypt. So, come on. I mean, our folks pretty much developed the concept of a calendar, and they want to deny that.
Wasn't the first woman supposed to ever been found? Was Lucy African?
Yeah, but I told somebody if we accept that, then they're going to find a European, which they did.
That's correct.
Okay. Although Lucy is still winning out.
Well, wait a minute. Because they went down to South America, found one that was older than Lucy, and she looked just like me and you. So
And then they found a white one. So they gonna keep lying. They gonna keep lying. But it did catch on a little bit that we're the parents of all of them. That I still hear people saying that, which is kind of interesting to me. But we have what we hang on to as the first and oldest civilization. But let me say this with regard to that calendar. For example, some of our black scholars have come right in line with some of these institutions that are trying to make Mesopotamia/Sumerians as old, if not older, than the ancient Egyptians, so that they can claim.
I don't think that's true.
It's not true. They can claim the creation of writing. They do not want Africans to have invented it, since they withheld it made it illegal for us to read and write over here. They're trying to uphold their lie. So this stuff goes on and on and on. Okay? All into like the University of Chicago. Okay? They're not the only ones. John Hopkins, there's a whole lot of them out here lying. They leave from one university, go to another, and it just goes on and on. But I see some of our scholars that have come in line with that. They might have written something earlier where they're saying, oh, the calendar is over, goes back to 4,000 and something BCE, and now you see them lining up 3250. That's the same damn date as Mesopotamia and Sumeria. Okay? It's all gone. When are we going to learn?
Let me say this.
What you say, Brother?
Sister was talking about how they excluded ancient Egypt out of the continent of Africa. Is when she and I went to Washington, D.C. at the Smithsonian Institute and saw an exhibit there of all the countries in the continent of Africa. And we went through that exhibit, and we said to ourselves, I don't see ancient Egypt here. So that's when Arnetta went and made that complaint to the Smithsonian Institute authorities about the absence of ancient Egypt out of those out of the continent of Africa as being on an exhibit there at the Smithsonian Institute about Africa, the African countries in the continent of Africa. They excluded Egypt out of there. So that's what she was talking about. And that calendar, the standard date for that calendar is 4142 BC. So you can't use that, like she said, because it's coming out of Western academia. And from Western academia, you're going to get a whole
trying to change it. What I'm trying to say, too, is they're trying to change it to line up with Mesopotamia/Sumeria, because that's about when they supposedly came on the scene, and they tried to drop ancient Egypt back to them for their civilization. Do you understand?
Yes, you're absolutely right, my sister.
All right, well, look, Dr. Williams, I need to ask the Queen Annetta if she would give us a description of what happened step by step in the Smithsonian Institute when you dealt with that.
Okay, go ahead, Annetta.
I remember that. That's just, wait a minute. Let me think for a moment. I think that was, wait a minute. Was that the African American, or was that the other time we visited Smithsonian?
That before the African American exhibit that's
there now. Because the building they had designated for Africa had a dome on it, which is okay because that's associated with us too. But they had who was associated with that pyramid on that dome. But anyway, that's a little bit different story. But there was a lot going on there. That was we felt was kind of misleading. But what I did, let me ask
you something now. You didn't did you deal with it without cussing?
Oh, I'm sorry.
After you found out about it, how you handle it?
Oh yeah, no, no. When I'm dealing with something like that, no, I don't cuss.
Okay.
No.
Well, they was,
I'm very
alive.
No.
Right.
Oh. No, I wanted them to take me very seriously, and I think I ended up writing something up that was supposed to go to the curator, or he might have come down. I don't remember exactly what took place, but it's been that's all over. You just got to deal with this stuff as you see it. And I was very happy when they put a brother in charge of the Smithsonian. At least we have a half a chance there.
Okay.
Yeah, of the truth being told. Whew. I could think of so many things, like the Natural History Museum, and been on a tour in D.C. and those Olmec heads out there that are obviously African, and the bus is going to breeze right by because this lady, the lady that we had gone on a tour with, she hired some person, non-African, I will put it like that, to be nice. And we drove, and he got all Africans on the bus. Totally ignored it. I had to get in his booty. I mean, you know, had to. I'm sorry. Let me clean up my words.
Oh my goodness! Go ahead and continue, please.
I had to address that. You know, and he did a number of things on that tour that was totally ignoring us. However, I think he practiced the religion of Judaism, and I don't want them to cut us off because we mentioned that word, but he ended up glorifying his culture as opposed to pointing out our culture. And we had paid him. He was paid. And I definitely told the lady who had coordinated the trip that there were people available who would be more authentic and honest about what was being seen and point certain things out to us. So, but anyway, we just have to deal with it whenever we see it.
Well, I'm gonna tell y'all something right now. You will discover it takes different places that you go in the United States, but you will discover that there are people in this country and coming in this country that don't like the fact that you waking up.
That's right. That's right.
But that's not our problem.
No, and we have to transcend them.
Yeah, look at that. If somebody got a problem with us waking up, that's their problem.
Well, there's more woke people.
Huh?
I said I have to agree with you.
No, we know why. We always been trying.
You know why I have to agree with you?
No way.
Do you know why I have to agree with you?
Why is that?
Because if they mess with you, you beat their butt.
No, I ain't gonna beat
Tarhaka.
Oh, Lord. She will. Stop it. They push the wrong button. Ooh. Anyway, Dr. Williams, we're down to the last 36 minutes, man.
Oh,
the last
wow, time flies.
Osiris.
Repeat that again, brother, so I can tell you what.
What else we got on Osiris? What else we want to talk about? What else we want to
Well, I think that it has been covered already. I covered a section of it, and Sister Arnetta took up the other section, and with two of us, we completed what we had to say about the resurrection of Osiris and the myth of Osiris and the Osarian resurrection story, which is a very first death, burial, and resurrection story on planet Earth. And that's where, that's where today's Christianity is getting their resurrection story about this non-human Jesus the Christ and this non-human the Virgin Mary. And like I said, those two created creatures, non-human creatures, were created at the Council of Ephesus in 431. So when the seed of Christianity moved out of Northeast Africa into Europe in 1439, when John VIII gave up the donation of Constantine to make way for that seat to be moved out of Northeast Africa, out of the double-walled city of Constantinople, out of Hagia Sophia, the world's first Christian church, that paved the way for Europeans to create what is out here today. And what's out here today pertaining to Christianity is European Christianity. And in European Christianity is altogether different from what was created for Christianity for the Europeans by our Melkite Coptic ancestors, the ancient Egyptians. For the European, it's altogether different what they created for the European during that time as to what is being presented today during this time.
However, may I comment on that, Walter?
Yes.
Okay, and I would say in addition to that, they did not stop there. That's true what you're saying about our Coptic ancient Egyptian ancestors, but they continued. Christianity continued to take stories out of ancient Egypt and apply them to Christianity. I think our people were only willing to go so far. But when you have playwrights who are competing to write something on the object of a Jesus the Christ, you're going to get all kinds of things. So what did they do? They went back to the first and oldest civilization to draw upon that. Okay? And that's how you end up with these the crucifixion and the resurrection, straight out of the Osarian Myth.
You're right. Absolutely right.
All right. Well, let me make sure I got this. Let me make sure I sum this up right, man. Now y'all telling me that something was done 5,000 years ago. And we know mathematically, historically, and all this right here, that Europeans couldn't read or write until the middle or latter half of the 14th, 15th, 16th century.
And that's when they started all their crap.
Okay.
During the Renaissance.
Give us a narration about what's supposed to happen yesterday and put their butt in it and label it as something they did? Is this what you're telling me?
You got it. You got it.
Absolutely.
You got it. You got it. That's exactly what it is. I guess when they dumbed us down and thought we would never learn to read and write, I guess they thought they had it forever. But it's also a part of Freemasonry. I mean, it's kind of here and there, everywhere. Okay, but even the so-called founding fathers who were not Christians, they were deists, I would say, or whatever. They took signs and symbols out of ancient Egypt too, Masonry. I mean, where were the original Masons? Right there in ancient Egypt. Stone workers, the stone cutters. And, I mean, come on. We're saturated with it in our Western civilization. It's all over. And we've got to teach people to recognize it and claim it and call it out. So those are some of the ways that we can claim it. And I'm going to be like Caroline Randall Williams when she said, when they were taking down those the war monuments, going back to the Civil War and all that, and these so-called heroes and generals and all those folks. And she said, you want a monument? She said, look at me. I'm a relic. Okay, I'm a relic of slavery. I'm a relic of Jim Crow. I'm a relic of all the things that you've continued to do to us. So we got to let folks know, when they look at us, we're monuments of civilization. That's who we are. Monuments of civilization.
Wow.
We're walking, we're breathing.
That's a profound statement, Sister Arnetta just made. Okay. Also, let me say this. The African woman, or the black woman, and the African man of ancient Egypt and of this world are the mothers and fathers of civilization.
Amen. Amen.
The great pyramid was built by men and women who used the creation that they had made called mathematics. And they took from mathematics and created a mathematical formula to build the greatest edifice that's ever been built by man. Now, those human beings to build the Great Pyramid had a mother and a father. So, and they were Africans, an African mother and an African father. So the black woman is a mother of civilization. The black
absolutely
African father is a father of civilization. So we're so great that we are even great as Negroes, as black people, as African Americans. We're just that great. And when we came over in this hemisphere in 1492 with Christopher Columbus, they erased the history from 1492 to 1619. From 1492 to 1619 is a period of 127 years. And they erased that history out and started our history out as with slavery. So today they have a institution in Washington, D.C. called the Smithsonian Institution, where they have an exhibit up. It's called the African American History and Culture Exhibit, telling the world that our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, civilization began with slavery. That's not true. We have to go beyond that and claim who we are. The world, a lot of them, like Sister Anna said, don't know who we are. We have to claim who we are and tell the world who we are. See, we are the greatest people that's ever walked this earth as a race of people. Because our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, left us an immortal legacy to claim our greatness. But the European comes along, and he wants to claim that legacy for himself. He stole our legacy. At least he tried to steal it up to this point. He had it stolen until Walter Williams came on the scene, until Arnetta Williams came on the scene, and others like me, like-minded people like me, came on the scene and said, no, you cannot steal our legacy that our ancestors left us. We're claiming our ancestors' legacy our ancestors left us. So that's where we are today. We have to claim that legacy and claim it and tell the world who we are. We're descendants of the greatest people that has ever walked this earth, known in history as the ancient Egyptians. Now, today, as I speak, living in the United States of America, during the time of slavery, they created a new African called the Negro, okay? But that new African is so great as being a Negro that he brought forth modern civilization as we know it, through his music, through his dance, through his inventions. They got books out today telling the world the inventions, naming the inventions, naming the names of these Negro Africans living in America, what they invented, when they invented, and so forth and so on. So therefore, we became the greatest Negroes on planet Earth, okay? That's how great we are. Everywhere we go, we bring new civilization to the area of the world where we're living, okay? And because of who we are, we're that type of people. We're a very creative people. Our ancestors were very creative, brought forth all forms of civilization to the world. And that's what is the European is trying to steal from us, and that's what Sister Neva is bringing out in her presentation this evening on this radio program. Brother Tarhaka?
All right. Dr. Williams, fantastic. Thank you, man. Brother Yoel, you out there?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
all right,
I'm
come on
over
in.
here. I'm hiding
Give
over
me your
here.
take on what Dr. Williams just said.
Well, ain't nothing left to be said. To do anything other than that would mean that I got to argue with the facts. And I don't want to argue with the facts. That would be foolish of me.
Okay. But I tell y'all what, y'all have no idea, because during the month of spring and me and pollen in the air, I have a whole hard time. I be sneezing and coughing. I got a garbage can full of paper over here trying to get through this show. Ooh, I can't even go outside. But
Wow.
But we doing good, long as I don't open up the door. But anyway, Dr. Williams,
try you some nettle root.
Huh?
Try you some nettle root.
The nettle root? Okay.
Nettle.
Stinging
nettle. Stinging nettle. Nettle.
Okay. All right, singing nettle. Okay, well, I'm going to go up there to my brother John's shop and see if he got in there, because he have all the herbs and spices and stuff, and I can't go down there to Auntie Peaches and her husband's shop, because both of them are kings and queens in Africa. And everybody been down there, but they probably done ran back to Africa after the pandemic thing, that big old lie. But anyway, so I'm going to go up there and see if he got it. If he got it, I'm going to sure take it, because I've been dealing with it.
Talk to him about it.
And long time. Huh?
I think you'll be curious. I say talk to him about it, and I think you'll probably want to get it.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to sure go up there and ask him about it. But let me ask you something one more time. Now, Dr. Williams will give us the bottom line on this Osiris thing. Do you have anything else to add for the listening audience?
Well, I would say that we have to do what we can to continue to dismantle one of the biggest falsehoods that's ever really been told. And we have a right to do that as it relates to us. And we should endeavor to do that. Let me see, because it's been piled on through the years. For example, to lead people to think that it's probably real is the reason we have all this trepidation, people being afraid and fearful, saying that believe in me and receive everlasting life. We got to chip away at that kind of stuff. So although you're dead, yet shall you live. In other words, eternal life, which is another perversion of what our ancestors meant that to be. So I would say we just got to keep chipping away at that kind of thing. And, when we go back to the Trinity, the original divine ancient Egyptian triad, which is another thing that's been snatched out of our culture and put it into into Christianity, although perverted. For example, the original triad was the mother, the father, the child. You had Osiris, Isis, and Horus. Okay? When it went into Christianity, all of a sudden you have 3 male deities, all men. What happened to the original family? They took the woman out, as we know, as Dr. Williams have has taught us and used Isis to make the Virgin Mary. Okay, so they had to fulfill that third position. So this is all part of the perversion of it and the process at Ephesus. We know that. And now you have the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, or the Holy Spirit. Now they tell you that you got, that the third person that they call it in Christianity, in the Trinity, they take that and say that that's what lives within you. See, they inside you now. It wasn't enough for them to just be in your head. Now they're going to put one of these entities inside of you. So when these people get to hopping around and going on, oh, she got the Holy Ghost, yeah, and all, they don't have a clue. Okay, that's their own, themselves cathartic, but they think that that's something from on high, and it's really not. So that kind of perversion, they destroyed the family. They always come with the family. The family, they destroyed that a long time ago. And when you think about what has evolved in the Roman Catholic Church, pretty much all males. And we know what's going on there, don't we? Okay? But we won't dwell on that. But this is all part of how it has evolved. So I would say that they have totally perverted. They've tried to hide Osiris from us because, there was a time that Osiris was visible. He was the first so-called father, okay? And when this so-called created creature originally ascended to the hand of the Father, that was Osiris, okay? That was Osiris with his African self. Okay. So now you hear that he's invisible, but he is the African god or deity on which all of Christianity is based. So we would be far better off reclaiming Osiris as opposed to this incarnated creature that's been created and clothed in Africanness. Okay, bottom line. We need to really think about these things and get to the heart of it, okay, and try to dismantle it as much as possible because it's going to all come out. But I'll say what Dr. King said. We have to believe in ourselves. Okay, they tell us not to, put all your faith in this being outside yourself. No. Believe in yourself. Believe in your hunches, your intuition. Believe in those things which you were given naturally at the time of your birth to sustain you throughout your life. Believe in yourself. Now, I'm not saying necessarily there's not a higher power, but certainly not the ones that we're looking at. And we know we have our ancestors who've gone on. I believe they can possibly help us. But all this other stuff, we need to look to ourselves and our own for strength, okay? But it's best that we stay within ourselves and understand our own power as opposed to always disempowering ourselves by looking outside of ourselves. We're a heck of a people, really. And that is known. That is why there has been so much effort and energy putting into trying to keep you in the place that has been created for us, not in our natural place. Because when we're in our natural places, we excel, okay? And we keep bringing it, okay? Like Walter said, all the innovations. Hey, Duke Ellington said, we've created at least 3 civilizations. And I would say more than that, really. Okay? But at least he recognized that. So we just got to be as conscious as possible in helping to put this thing in its proper perspective.
Okay. Well, Sister, you sure laid that out for us. And you really did. And we certainly appreciate you for doing that.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Yes, sir.
You want to add something else? We ain't got but 19 minutes.
You almost like, it's almost like you saying they didn't complete. They didn't put the period behind what they said. They done already put the period behind it.
Well, that's what I call it. You put the period behind it. That's what
well, I don't need 2 periods. You don't need 3 periods. President Williamson said it, and his wife has said it. Hey, there's nothing left to be said.
Okay, well, so sometimes we have a whole lot of information in our head, and sometimes we had to go back to square one to start over sometimes. And all we got to do is remember we are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Okay, now.
Okay, so that will
right.
help us out in with a whole lot of things that we be trying to figure out that we can't figure out when we are faced with something strange and we can't figure it out real quick. So I just want to throw that down up in there. But y'all hold on a minute. Emma, where you at?
Emma got something.
No, I'm done.
Don't go nowhere. Don't go nowhere, Emma.
You know, she's short. She don't. Come on now, tell us something.
I'm done.
Okay.
Oh.
Dr. Williams?
She said you can stick a fork in it. Brother Tarhaka?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I want to leave the listening audience with some information about me and my 2 books and where they can buy the 2 books. My 2 books that are out in publication, out in the world arena to be purchased. The first book is called The Historical Origin of Christianity. The thesis of that book is saying that there's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form of any race, creed, or color by the name of Jesus Christ never existed. That book has been out for 28 years. My second book is called The Historical Origin of Islam. The thesis of that book is saying that there's never been a man that ever walked the earth by the name of a Prophet Muhammad of Islamic tradition never existed. That book has been out for 17, 18 years now. Now, you can purchase these 2 books from your African local bookstore in the city or town where you live. Or you can go on Amazon and purchase the books. Or you can go to Barnes and Nobles, etc., and purchase the books. But I recommend highly that you go to one of our main distributors right here in Chicago. And we have the owner of that bookstore, Brother Yoel, at this very moment being present on this radio broadcast. He is the owner of the Underground Bookstore in Chicago, 1727 East 87th Street. Phone number 773-768-8869, 773-768-8869. You can purchase both books there. And also, he has old rare books that he can find for you through his personal contact to do just that. So I would recommend highly that you contact him, and you can purchase my books through his bookstore right here in Chicago. Now, he's going to come behind me and he's going to give you the same information that I just gave you about his bookstore from his own mouth. So another thing I want to leave with the listening audience is my contact number information, such as my email. If you want to contact me by email by contacting and emailing me at ancientegyptian@msn.com. ancientegyptian@msn.com. And if you want to converse with me by phone, put your phone number there, and I will get back to you and converse with you from the phone number that you leave on your email. So again, you can email me at ancientegyptian@msn.com, and we can go from that point. So that's what I want to leave with the listening audience before we sign off. So if you want to turn it over to Brother Yoel to give some more information about himself and his bookstore, the time is now to do that, Brother Yoel. Thank you.
Brother Yoel, come on in. Brother Yoel, are you with me? Brother Yoel.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Can you hear me? You can't hear me?
Oh, yes, sir. We hear you loud and clear. Come on. We hear you.
Brother Yoel, I gave a shout out and a plug to your bookstore. And now we're calling on you to reiterate what I said about your bookstore and how you can purchase my two books, The Historical Origin of Christianity, Historical Origin of Islam, through your bookstore, the Underground Bookstore. So if you could tell them more about your bookstore, the time is now. Go ahead. Brother Yoel?
Brother Yoel, you with us?
I'm muted now.
Hello.
Brother Yoel. Hey.
We hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Oh, yeah. We hear you now, man.
Okay. This is Brother Yoel from the Windy City, Chicago, coming to you from Underground Bookstore in Chicago, located, as he said, at 1727 East 87th Street, Chicago. Telephone number 773-768-8869. Website, you can go to our website. It's kind of being updated right now, but you can look at some of the books there, and that you can Google undergroundbookstore.com, and you can go there and look at some of the books. We currently get that updated, but if you see something that you like, or if you know something you like and you don't see it, you can call me. Always call me at 773-768-8869. So we came into being and birth right after Professor William wrote his book. Actually, a year before you wrote the book, and then I came into being and taken over right after you published the book. So that's 27 years, and you've been around 28 with that book. So we're still here. We're still trying to bring some information to y'all. We're trying to be the greatest little miracle on 87th Street, waiting for y'all to come and seek knowledge of your heritage, who you are, and whatnot. So if we don't have it, we'll try to find it for you. If it can be found, I'll find it. That's about it. Email address is theundergroundbookstore@gmail.com. theundergroundbookstore@gmail.com. And we have another email address is undergroundbookstore1 @gmail.com. That's it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, I certainly appreciate you, my brother. Let me ask you one more time.
Appreciate you.
Can you hear me loud and clear?
Audience.
You can hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to tell y'all something. One more time. I think I got just the right amount of minutes to tell it to you. And what I'm going to need you all to do is to use your imagination for a minute. Now, I used to work for a Jamaican restaurant, and I'm standing to the counter, and they had this big old TV on the other side of the counter, and all of a sudden the news came on, and there is this building that is on fire, and the fire department and everybody on there trying to put out the fire. But then what I found out is that the building that they're talking about is where I live.
Oh, my God.
So, the Jamaicans say, well, isn't that your house right there? Yeah. I was running downtown. I was running through all the buildings down there, running. My hat blew off my head. I was trying to get home, and I don't know why I was running, because it was on fire and there wasn't nothing I could do about it. And it burned up everything down there. I would have never knew it if they hadn't cut on the TV.
Okay.
When I got down there, boy, it was a heap of smoke. All the prostitutes were running. All the drug dealers were running.
What you doing, prostitution and drug dealers? They lived at your house.
Man, it was the most awful incident ever happened. I stepped out. I was outside standing on the sidewalk across the street, watching a pillar of smoke go up and stuff. And after that, I said, well, look here, I need to go somewhere because I can't go in the building. I can't get into bed. I can't take a nap. I can't get ready for tomorrow. I can't get fixed up to go back to work. I can't do nothing. And so I made a few phone calls to come and get me, and took me to a place of safety, and where I could figure this thing out. And what had done happened is the house next door was a wooden house, and the man in there then went in, that fell asleep in the house and burnt down the whole house, and the house caught a fire to the next building where I was in, and burnt down the building. But it didn't burn it all the way down, but it burned it all up, and especially where I was living at. Yeah, burn it all up. So I feel like we live in the most amazing world, and sometimes things happen. So if you proclaim your nationality and do what you are supposed to do as a man or a woman, I think you can make it. That's just my personal opinion. I think you can make it. That's what I wanted to say about that, because it was the most horrific incident that ever occurred. Well, actually, one of them. But anybody else got anything else to say?
think we had a good show today. Some very good, informative information was departed from Sister Annetta and myself and others on this, and Sister Emma on this particular broadcast. So I am thankful to have them as our special guests, because every time they come on, we learn something that we could use in our everyday life. And they bring facts and important information coming from those facts to our African community in America and throughout the world. So the time has come for people like them, like us, and like you, Brother Tarhaka, who created this platform, for us to have a platform to bring our knowledge and information to our African community. So again, you have to be applauded for your efforts and what you have done and what you're still doing to bring this information every month to our African community, because every month we have a different topic of interest that we know will help our people in the diaspora of America and throughout the world. So, again, thank you, Brother Tarhaka, for giving us this platform. We appreciate it, and it's been very informative, and I had a very good time in bringing this information to our African community. And again, I want to give thanks for the information that Sister Annetta brought to this platform, and to Sister Emma, who brought her perspective to this platform, and even my dear brother Yoel, what he brought to this platform. I got to give thanks to him also.
Yeah.
And so that's what I have to say in closing.
And most importantly, they brought balance.
What was that?
I agree with you.
I said most importantly, they brought balance.
We had balance.
I absolutely agree.
Yes, balance.
Okay,
feminine
great.
Perspective.
That's right. We had balance. Yeah. So anyway, I enjoyed myself, and again, I thank you. And we want to have our guests back as often as we can, because they really bring good information to us and to our people in the African community. Information that nobody else is talking about because of their unique thinking on the subject that highlights the history and the culture of our ancestors, ancient Egyptians. So again, I want to thank all of us, Tarhaka, Yoel, Sister Emma, Sister Annetta, and of course, Brother Walter Williams. Thank you for everything.
Brother Yoel, you got anything else to say?
No, sir. That's it. That's it.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, I certainly appreciate all of y'all for being on the broadcast tonight. You did a wonderful job. And I thank you, Arnetta, and I thank you, Emma, and Dr. Walter Williams, and Brother Yoel. I thank you all so much. I'm going to shut this thing down, and I'm going to take me a nap if I can stop sneezing. And, oh, Lord, I shouldn't have said it. I'm going to be all right, and y'all have a good night.
Okay. Again, Tarhaka Hotel.
The United Independent Compensatory Code System concept. United means that in theory or in intent, the people who are the victims of racism and are the white people who are
against the proliferation or the continued use of racism as the standard for the world's business should be united against that standard. The independent part means that each individual has to do what he or she can to counter racism with the ultimate objective of ending it and replacing it with a thing that we loosely call justice, ultimately leading to peace, quote unquote. Now that means that you're independent. You are a independent person.
So it's not a collective effort.
It's collective in that you go to the third and fourth words, compensatory, code. You become collective by using a code, the code of compensation, making up. That's what compensatory means, making up for what's missing. Right, and you have a code to make up for what is missing. What is missing is the use of truth to produce justice and correctness, which theoretically would equal peace. So you come up with a compensatory code, a way of thinking, speaking, and acting each and every day in all of the 9 areas of activity. Then you use that code as an individual, wherever you happen to be in all of those areas of activity. And right now, you don't have, it's only a concept. That's where the word concept comes in. See, it's strictly theory right now. You don't have a concept of white supremacy without the practice, because white supremacy is being practiced. A concept of the elimination of white supremacy and or racism and or injustice is strictly a concept. There's no such thing as justice existing anywhere on the planet, since the definition for justice is guaranteeing that no person is mistreated. People are mistreated all over the planet all the time. So you just have a concept of justice. What you have is practical injustice. It's the difference between having a concept of justice and having it actually in practice. Well, that's obvious. If you are imprisoned unjustly, it means that you do not have the power to get out of prison because of 2 factors. You don't have the will or you don't have the ability. Now, those who are the victims of racism don't have the ability because they do not have the will that provides the ability or the ability to provide the will to not be victims. Also, the racists do have the will and the ability to practice white supremacy. They have proven that.
And that's why you say that there really can't be such thing as a black racist.
No.
Because it has to do with the abilities to...
It has to do with the power relationship. It has to do with something that you're actually doing.
Carrying out.
You're actually doing it. White supremacy is a fact. A lot of people do not like to admit to its existence, but any comprehensive analysis would show that such a thing does exist. So therefore, you can't have a system of black supremacy within a system of white supremacy. It's a total contradiction. Yes, it's a total disaster. What you mean by total is, at this particular point, it is total, because there is not a quality relationship between white people and non-white people on this planet because of the existence of the system of white supremacy. That cuts out any ability of anybody to produce a quality relationship between black people and white people. It also eliminates the possibility under the system of non-white people, black, brown, red, and yellow, interacting with each other or even with white people in a manner that is quality. By quality, we mean justice. We mean with truth. We mean doing the correct thing. You can't do it under a system of white supremacy, because the system of white supremacy is based on mistreating people and having the people react to that mistreatment. So what you have is just a lot of abuse and reactions to abuse and a continuation of the same. Now, you do accomplish a lot of technical things.
Such as?
Well, such as production of building of bridges, the building of highways, the building of buildings, schools that, by the way, support the system of white supremacy, right? And all of these things are designed to do just that. It's a giant ego trip for a white person to be told that because you're white, you are somewhat substantially royal, and so you should act like it. So that's a lot of incentive. Now, a non-white person sitting, say, in a classroom setting is told directly, indirectly, within the system of white supremacy, now you are being trained to be a victim of all of this. In the system of white supremacy, it is absolutely required. In other words, the white student is being taught systematically how to be a white supremacist. The non-white student is being taught how to be a victim. So you have an opposites right there
in the same
classroom at the same time. In other words, the white student is being taught systematically how to be a white supremacist. The non-white student is being taught how to be a victim. So you have an opposites right there
in the same
classroom at the same time. And the result is going to be that. Why? Because of the words that are used right in the classroom itself, the terms and the intent. This can be dismantled by changing the words, changing the way language is used, changing the way that things are glorified or not glorified. It cannot be offset by anything called Afrocentrism. It's no way to talk about the system of white supremacy or racism in general without, as it stands now, without embarrassing black people and without offending white people. It's just no way to do it. But that goes with the territory of trying to solve the problem.
Why would black people feel embarrassed?
Because most people who like to feel that they have self-esteem and power, etc., are embarrassed when they find out that their self-esteem is very low, that they are really not very proud of themselves, that they really haven't accomplished anything that they can really point to that matters within the body politic of the system of white supremacy. So therefore, it causes a person to become embarrassed. A person becomes embarrassed when they sit in a classroom and they listen to the word dark being used. That's a non-white person. And just the way the word black or dark is being used in almost every setting or
even
context.
In the dictionary.
Yes.
The way you look at the word
the student sits there and the student listens to words like dark ages. And you will say the person has a dark past. And you will hear that word being used repeatedly. Dark, dark, dark. Within the context of something that is very demeaning, something that is very undesirable to anyone who has any sense of decency about them. So about the 8th or 9th grade, particularly black male students, simply do not want to hear any more of it. And so they become rebellious and disruptive.
They turn off.
And this is just one word, dark. But then when you include in that the glorification of events that have happened all down through history that were supportive of the system of white supremacy, then the non-white person loses self-esteem, loses the will to want to do anything within that class. Now, if we're talking about mathematics or biology, zoology, there are not so many problems in those particular classes if you have the support of the sociological classes, the classes that deal with interactions between people. But when you don't have that support, the rest of it falls apart where the non-white student is involved. I hope to achieve, first of all, being aware of racism, what it is, and how it works, and then to make prescriptions as to what an individual can do and say on a daily basis in all 9 areas of activity so that they can counter what is already in place with the ultimate objective, not of establishing another form of racism or another form of mistreatment of people, but with the objective, ultimately, of producing peace. And you can only do that through revealing truth and then using truth in such manner as to produce a product called justice. and correctness. Correctness means balance between people and things, creatures, etc. That's true. The system of racism, any system of mistreatment of people, first of all, has to be designed so that you have automatic animosity toward another person. And so that person goes into a category where when you look at that person, you'll say, I am supposed to have animosity toward that person. Of the basic royal concept, that there are certain people who should be royal. And at one time it might have been, presumably, just among white people themselves. But when they came in contact with non-white people, then the old royal system switched over to a color system, which is much more efficient, much more dynamic, and it's proven to be the greatest political system and the greatest religious system in the known universe. It's the most powerful. It's an idea that has set off all kinds of ramifications among the body politic of the people in the known universe.
Yeah.
Well, economics means that the use of time and energy. Okay. And the racists, when they looked around at the people that they classified as non-white, they decided, well, one thing, we will have domination over the way that they use their time and energy. And all of these areas of activity are interrelated. Economics is interrelated with education. Education is interrelated with entertainment. Entertainment is interrelated with labor, law, politics, religion, sex, war. All of these 9 areas are interactive. So, if you're a white supremacist, in order to really be supreme, you have to get control over everything that people do in all of these 9 areas if these people are classified as non-white. And of course, being a supremacist, the supremacist always does the classifying, not the victims. The victims cannot classify themselves without the approval of the white supremacist. Just like a term that you hear now in popular parlance is the term biracial.
Yes.
Or multiracial, or multicultural. Now, these are terms that the victims of racism will have to pick through and try to, they are given this selective chart where they can determine if they are biracial and to what degree of biracialism, whatever that's supposed to mean, what degree of colorism, whatever that's supposed to mean. More confusion. See, the basic reason, the basic tool of the races is deceit. Yes. So therefore, deceit is supposed to produce confusion. The more confusion you have, the more deception you have among the victims. Now, the racists will not be deceived. The white supremacists will be able to function as white people. That will still be their classification. The classification will be white. That's the dominant classification. All of the so-called biracial classifications will be more confusion. And the hypothetical situation would be that you would have then non-white people going into an employment office making out forms where they will try to find out whether they are part Indian, part Portuguese, part semi-this, and bi that, and multa this, and multa that. And it will take them all day probably to make out their form. Anyone who is classified as white will come in and maybe in a few minutes make out their applications and leave. The non-white people will still be there at closing time trying to figure out who they are and where they fit into the subordinate, and I underline subordinate categories. This is why it's important to always watch the words that are produced under the system of white supremacy. Any type of words that are introduced into the language, such as multiracialism, multiculturalism, biracialism. Take the term multiculturalism. Culture is what you do. That's all it is. Whatever people do in any one or more than 9 areas of activity is the culture of that person at the time that the person is doing it. Whatever it is that the person is doing. There's nothing mysterious about culture. The victims of white supremacy have a victimization culture all over the world. So to straightening out race problems, you have to have the words. The words are not correct. Hardly any of the words are correct. The words are designed to support racism. And this is why you have the confusion you have in the schools.
Deceit.
Yes, the deceit. See, the words are designed to support deceit, which is the basic tool of the white supremacists. So your role model would be a code that is designed to counteract all of the words, a code of thought, speech, and action, all of the words first of all, and then the deeds that would counteract what is already in place, which is injustice. Recently, I coined that means, so people can remember it easily, the VGQ means Victims Guaranteed Qualification. And the purpose of this is to minimize and or eliminate unnecessary conflict between the victims of racism in their confusion of trying to do something about it, like end it and replace it with justice. And the VGQ means you're guaranteed the qualification. You're the victim of white supremacy. That's what the victim means. You're guaranteed the qualification to say anything that you want to say about race, racism, or counter-racism. By being a victim, you're guaranteed that qualification. You're guaranteed from birth that qualification. So therefore, no non-white person can tell another non-white person what to say, what not to say, and how to say it on the issue of race, racism, or counter-racism, because no non-white person is qualified to tell another non-white person this. Reason being, all are equal victims. Neely Fuller is not qualified to say what Mr. Queen can say or not say in regards to race, racism, or counter-racism. Any other non-white person. Now, you can raise questions, or you're qualified to say things to white people about things that are said about race, racism, or counter-racism. Reason being, white people are not victims of white supremacy. Well, when you put it in the frame of reference, everyone, when they talk about racism and white supremacy, should always start by saying that the focus, the objective should be replace white supremacy with justice. Those are the 5 basic words. And you start your frame of reference from that. The words are very important because when people talk about racism, they tend to get away from the basic focus. If you keep those 5 words in mind, replace white supremacy with justice, then you can keep focus. In many of these discussions on the matter, people tend to get into everything from feminism to words that don't have precise definitions.
And everything else. They go off on a tangent.
Yes, right.
Yeah, but this kind of locks it in.
Right. Bigotry, discrimination, sexism, a multitude of isms. Biracialism, whatever that means, multiculturalism. Whatever
that means.
Yes. And so you get into a myriad of words that don't apply to the focus of what you're talking about. So therefore, that is the basic frame of reference that you should always focus on. That should be used by all people who are talking about the problem as it is. Well, the 3 T's called a tragic arrangement are tacky, trashy, terroristic. Now, this is the arrangement that non-white people on this planet have with white people in their everyday interactions in all areas of activity. Tacky, trashy, and terroristic. One of the 3. It doesn't get any better than tacky. If you will observe black people, for instance, in the presence of white people, on account of the way that both of them are raised within the system of white supremacy, there's a strain there. There's not a even flow. So what you have is a tackiness. It doesn't get any better than tacky. It can't get any better than tacky within the system of white supremacy.
Why?
So this is all very tragic. Well, because the system of white supremacy demands that white people interact with non-white people in a certain way that is harmful, and harsh and overall destructive. And that the non-white people interact with the white people in the same manner. And they are taught this. Both people are taught this at a very early age, and then the teaching goes on every day in all 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Yes, well, you can tell that there's a strain even on college campuses and whatnot, and in schools. The people will go to the classes together because that's where the classes are. They are, that's where the teaching is. And then the students will separate themselves in the lunchroom. Now, there's a reason for that. And the reason is not healthy. It shows it's something that is completely out of order. Because if the people are sharing the same classroom and learning the same things and having the same values that are taught in that classroom, then why do not the people interact with each other in all of the areas of activity without exception in harmony? Under the system of white supremacy, a black student sitting next to a white student is being taught how to be a victim of white supremacy. The white person, the white student, is being taught how to be a white supremacist.
And it's all in the language.
This is done in the language, in the use of the words, in the subject matter of the materials, if the material in any way relates to interactions between people. Now, the other two T's, trashy, if you try to improve on the tackiness, then it gets trashy, the interactions between. For instance, you can say that in the area of religion, Sunday morning, black people and white people do not attend the same churches. Right, now that is tacky, particularly in the area of religion. It should not be. The two people should come together in religion, if in nothing else. It would seem logically speaking. But under the system of racism, since the basic teaching of the white supremacy system is that white supremacy is a religion, so you have a built-in barrier already against black people and white people sharing the same premises and preaching the same gospel and talking about loving each other and treating each other with justice. So therefore you can't have what you call black people and white people in the same religious setting, which is why you don't have it. So what you do have, and I'd like to add this, is the trashiness that goes on the same Sunday morning, and that is maybe in the houses of prostitution, in the houses of dope dealing. Then you will have black and white together.
That's the only
same day, on Sunday. Yes, one in Christ, they often say. And that is something that not even many black people care to explain. That they say we are, in Christ there is no east, no west, etc., etc., etc. Yet, the black people and the white people cannot sit down in the same bench in a church. Well, that is because of the race issue. As well. It's always because of the race issue. You can't do anything. You can't straighten out anything in religion or any of the 9 areas of activity without first eliminating racism. And here again, there's only one functional form, and that is white supremacy. The role model for replacing white supremacy should be a code of thought, speech, and action, not a person, never a person. And that also applies to producing justice throughout the world, which justice has never been produced, as far as anyone who is existing now knows anything about. We don't know what justice would be like. We don't know what peace would be like. You never had it. So in the process of producing justice, you need a role model, and that role model has to be a prescription. Some ministers have said in the beginning there was the Word. Now that certainly applies also to straightening out race problems. You have to have the words. The words are not correct. Hardly any of the words are correct. The words are designed to support racism. And this is why you have the confusion you have in the schools.
Deceit.
Yes, the deceit. See, the words are designed to support deceit, which is the basic tool of the white supremacists.
You